Welcome to the meeting of the California Commission on the State of Hate. I'm Brian Levin, he, him, chair. Closed captioning is available for this meeting. The closed captions can be displayed in English or another language, which will allow you to view an automated live transcript of the meeting in another language. Please see the slide translated closed captions. To display closed captions on your screen, please do the following. Click the button labeled Show Captions at the bottom of your Zoom window. Then select the box at the bottom of the window labeled Enable Translation. When you see you've enabled translation at the top, select English as the speaking language and select your preferred language in the second menu. Click Save. Automated captions in your selected language should start appearing at the bottom of the Zoom window, and we will send instructions in Spanish in the chat. Thank you. Now we'll move on to agenda item 1B, which is the establishment of a quorum, and I will defer to Dr. Watts for a roll call.
Great. Chair Levin,
Present.
Vice Chair Che is not here. Commissioner Damsky,
Good morning, I'm here.
Commissioner Cuellar, Commissioner Roybal,
Present.
Commissioner Salcedo, Commissioner Southers,
Present.
Commissioner Safar.
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum. You're on mute, Chair Levin.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to agenda item 1C, which is review of the agenda, and you can see that is up in the slide. You may view the agenda by visiting the Commission's website and clicking on the button labeled Meetings and Agenda. We will send the link to the agenda in the chat. And we have, our former chair, Roybal, with his hand up. If I may, just recognize him. He might have something relevant here. Thank you. Commissioner Roybal.
Thank you, Chair Levin. Commissioner Cuellar and I are on the Community Forum Subcommittee, and there's an agenda item today, agenda item number 6, discussion on speakers on anti-Semitism. Commissioner Cuellar is out today because this meeting was rescheduled, and I am at a conference and only can be here the first hour. And so Commissioner Cuellar and I would like to be present for that discussion because we have been talking in the Community Forum Subcommittee about programming one of the forums around anti-Semitism. So I would like to request that we move that agenda item to our meeting in 2 weeks because both Commissioner Cuellar and I will be present for that whole meeting. And we can present some of the topics that we have been thinking about. We've asked the staff to look at the data to help inform that discussion. And the subcommittee is going to be meeting again next week. And then we can present something in conjunction with this agenda item on the meeting on the 24th.
Fantastic. So what we'll do, oh, I'm sorry, we have another hand up. So excuse me, I'm going to recognize our esteemed Vice Chair Emerita, Andrea Beth Damsky.
Thank you, Chair Levin. Director Roybal, Commissioner Roybal, I appreciate your comment. And I know that the subcommittee has been working on this issue. I would really love for both you and Commissioner Cuellar to be here for the discussion on speakers on anti-Semitism. I know that I prepared some information to share today, and I'm happy to hold that until our next meeting on June 24th. So if that's a motion, I would second that motion.
It's not a motion yet. But if I may, I did have a short statement to the Jewish community that I'd like to make. And what I'd like to do then is still have this on the agenda for today, but not hit anything substantive other than that we will be following up with it 2 weeks from now, if that's okay. So in other words, don't feel that you've missed anything, and we'll have that on the agenda for the meeting that we are, at least as of now, scheduled to have later this month. I would note that I've been looking at some folks as well, some of whom are from out of state, but I have some folks that I would like to perhaps send over. I don't know how we do this with regard to Bagley Keene, but perhaps I'll send it over to our deputy director, and he will then figure out a way to communicate without violating our state laws.
Chair Levin, I think that well, thank you, and thank you, Commissioner Damsky, because I think it would be important for us, for Commissioner Cuellar and I to be a part of that, given the limitations of how we can discuss things. But I think as long, Chair Levin, as you bring it up, if that item stays on and you bring up some of that information, I think you can refer it to the subcommittee on community forums. That way the staff can get us that information and we can talk about it in our meeting next week, the subcommittee meeting next week. I think that would be very helpful. And I appreciate the commission's grace and allowing us to have a more substantive discussion at the meeting on June 24th. I know this is a priority for the commission, but both Commissioner Cuellar and I know this is a priority for the commission, and we want to make sure that it gets the attention that it deserves.
Absolutely. So we're kind of bifurcated but I think it's important because I've been getting a lot of requests, and I would like to make a brief statement to the Jewish community of California, including some new stats that just came out. So will do, and I will also, since it is a public document, I will send the transcript of my statement over to Alec to distribute as allowed. And thank you so much, by the way. If I may, we're gonna move on, but just what a wonderful subcommittee. We don't get to thank them enough, but thank you. Do we have any other comments with respect to the agenda? All right.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I'll raise my hand. Thank you, Chair Levin. Weren't you thinking about making some other changes in today's agenda in the interests of time?
Oh, yes. We are dropping agenda item number 8. And for agenda item number 3, we're going to compact it so that I will give a statement after Commissioner Zafar and our special guest get to speak. So in other words, we're going to combine agenda item 3 with agenda item 2, since commissioners can speak right after our esteemed guests. So I hope that's not confusing. We're going to combine 2 and 3. Two will go first. And agenda item number 8 will be removed, and we will have a continuance of the agenda item, which I believe was 6, for discussion on anti-Semitism. So thank you so much, all. And Vice Chair Emerita Damsky, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I believe that we had also talked during our pre-session to have delay of our subcommittee reports.
Yes, although I guess we can. This is a good question. We don't. I guess we'll just delay the subcommittee reports until the next meeting, since they're technically placeholders, but it doesn't appear that we have folks that are going to say much because we had such a packed schedule. So yes, thank you so much, Commissioner Damsky. We shall do that as well. If I may, I'd like to now move on to the process for public comment. If you are joining us on Zoom and would like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand feature to join the public comment queue. If you are joining us by phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute. You may also submit a written public comment by emailing csh, as seen on the screen, at calcivilrights.ca.gov. If you submit a written comment that pertains to an agenda item, we will read it aloud or summarize it when the public comment portion of that agenda item is open and before any vote. If the comment is not about a specific agenda item, we will read it aloud or summarize it during the agenda item titled Public Comment on Items Not on the Agenda. And thank you very much for submitting the slide. For anyone joining us in the room in Sacramento, please raise your hand for a verbal comment and we will unmute the room. You may also submit a written comment by writing your comment on a piece of paper and handing it to Zelina Molina, our staff. She's more than our staff member. She's our George Martin, if you will. Look it up on Google. Our staff member in the room today. In the interest of time, we will limit verbal comments to 2 minutes per person. Commission discussion. Do we have any commissioners with their hands raised on this particular item? Okay, it does not appear so. And do we have any public comment? Yes, we have Vice Chair Emerita Damsky. Yes.
Thank you, Chair Levin. I believe we still need to approve the amended agenda.
Do we
Do we need to do that?
do we do that after the public comment or do it now, Deputy Director Watts?
It's at your discretion, Chair Levin, so
do it.
there's no need to vote on it.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Then we will move on. Thank you. And just want to make sure, do we have any public comment on the public comment? All right. I am now going to go to agenda item number 2, to a very special informational presentation by Imam Taha Hosseini, who's director of the Islamic Center of San Diego. And if I may, I would like to turn the floor over to my esteemed colleague, Commissioner Zafar, to handle this section of agenda item number 2 and our special guest. Welcome to all.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair Levin, and thank you to all of you for being here. We're very delighted to have Imam Taha Hassan speak to us today. Nearly the 2 decades that I've been doing this work, confronting hate, defending civil rights, both here at home and through interfaith work abroad, I've learned one really important thing, and that's that the people who truly hold our communities together are almost never the loudest voices in the room. They are people like the leader I have the honor of introducing today, and that is Imam Taha Hassan. He has led the Islamic Center of San Diego for more than 20 years. He was trained at the Institute of Islamic Studies at the University of Algiers and holds a Master of Theology and Islamic Studies from the Graduate Theological Foundation in Indiana. He's one of San Diego's foremost interfaith leaders. He's a member of the National Catholic Muslim Dialogue. He's welcomed to preach in churches and universities across the country. He's the chair of the Muslim American Advisory Board of the San Diego Police Department, as well as a volunteer chaplain to the sick and the incarcerated in his city. So you can imagine how busy he is, and so how grateful we are to have him here. And he's spent he spent his life building the very bridges that this attack has tried to burn down. And in the weeks since the attack, the terrible attack at the Islamic Center of San Diego, he's carried the hardest weight a faith leader can be asked to bear, which is to bury members of his own congregation, to comfort their families, and to hold a community that is very frightened together with steadiness and grace. In a few moments, I think Imam Taha very graciously will tell us what has happened inside his mosque, what's happened since, how his community has come together and has not retreated in this moment. And I think it's important that we need to hear this precisely because a voice like this is why our commission exists. A significant portion of our work lies in reports and data. That's the work that Deputy Director Watts and his team works on. And this is very important as a data person myself. But hate is never a statistic to the people who survive it. And it's why this commission, if this commission means to confront hate honestly, especially anti-Muslim hate, it's important for us to begin by listening to the people who have lived it. So it is my honor to welcome Imam Hassan on behalf of our commission, and a greater honor to give him this space and opportunity to speak with us. Welcome, Imam Hassan.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'd like to start in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. And I'd like to thank you all as commissioners, Chair Levin, Commissioner Zafar, and all of you for inviting me and giving me this opportunity and this space to speak on behalf of my Muslim community here in San Diego. Just for your information, I've been serving the Islamic Center of San Diego for the last 22 years, and it's the largest mosque. The Islamic Center of San Diego is the largest mosque in San Diego County. In the county of San Diego, we have over 100,000 Muslims living, many of them immigrants and coming from literally from all over the world. The Muslim community in the United States in Southern California, or California as a state, is the most ethnically diverse community. So again, we're talking about a terrorist attack that targeted our Islamic Center of San Diego on Monday, May 18th. And the day started as usual, a regular day. That morning, I had 25 students from a high school, Christian high school in Escondido, visiting the Islamic Center of San Diego. And I welcomed them at 10 a.m. And we had our meeting in the prayer hall. They were also accompanied with two of their teachers. As usual, I gave them a presentation about the Islamic faith, and we talked about different cultures that exist within the Muslim community. And then we finished around 11:15. After that, I gave them a small tour of the Islamic Center, and I took them to our store. We have a store inside the Islamic Center. As usual, I gave them cookies. This is how we feed our guests all the times, like Middle Eastern cookies. And then I escorted them outside to the parking lot, just goodbye and hope to see you again and everything. After that, I went back to my office. I checked on my two admins who were there, and I talked to our security guard, Amin Abdullah, and I told him I'll be going upstairs, getting ready for the prayer. And by then it was 11:30. Few minutes after that, at 11:39, 11:40, the shooting started. So I was there inside in the building. I was upstairs in the upper floor, and the shooting started. Also, we have a school, the lower elementary Islamic school with kindergarten classes, and also first grade and second grade classes inside the same building where the shooters showed up. So when the shooters, yes.
Imam Hassan, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. It looks like your video is off. That's totally fine if you'd like it to be off, but
Oh,
if you can turn it on, that would be great. We'd love to see you while you speak.
okay.
Fantastic. We can see you now.
Oh, so did you miss some of what I have said?
We heard everything, we just couldn't see you.
Okay. Thank you. So, as I have said, few minutes after talking to our security guard, I went upstairs, and around 11:40, the shooting started. So the two shooters showed up. Our security guard was inside the security booth, where he could see who is outside, but no one from outside could see him. The two shooters walked by the booth, and right after that, once they reached the gate of the Islamic Center, he went out and he engaged them in shooting. So basically, what he did, actually, heroic act that prevented them from taking their time and going inside the building and going to every room they wanted to access. So he held them for a few minutes at the door of the Islamic Center, and unfortunately ended up by him being shot, and then he was murdered. And then after that, the shooters, they made their way to the prayer hall where I was sitting with the kids, our visitors. And they scanned the prayer hall. Thank God there was no one at that time over there, because it was too early for the midday prayer. And then they came back to the front, and then they entered the multipurpose room from one door, and they exited from the other door towards the parking lot, where there were two brothers, Brother Abu al-Is and Brother Nadir, over there, trying to find out a way how they could get inside and do something, just to prevent them from getting into the classrooms of the kids. When the shooters saw our two brothers who were not armed, they shoot them and they murdered them, and then they took off. So they took off from the Islamic Center parking lot, and like a minute or two, the police showed up. I mean, it took them from the time we made the 911 call until the time they showed up, exactly 4 minutes. So basically, this is what happened that day. Now, it was a tragedy. It was something that we have never, ever expected. But the hate against the Muslim community didn't start Monday the 18th. It started way before that. It started when we realized that on a regular basis, we receive hate mail, we receive hate voice messages, hate emails. People try sometimes to vandalize our property. Sometimes people just driving by the Islamic Center, slowing down when they arrive right in front of the Islamic Center, and then they start cursing and saying very, very offensive language. And last time I remember, someone did it at the time of the dismissal of the school, when literally, dozens of parents were picking up their kids from the Islamic Center, from the school, and this happened right there. So it's a long history of receiving all these hate messages all the time. And unfortunately, all what happened throughout the years, it was underreported. Not only the attacks on the Islamic Center, but also on Muslim individuals, whether our kids at school being bullied, whether our members of the Muslim community in public places, in shopping centers, in malls, wherever. It happens all the time. And we do report, I mean, sometimes because of some cultures of immigrant families, they don't give a lot of importance to reporting these incidents, like a child coming back from school sharing with his or her parents that what happened to him or to her at school, being called terrorist, being called all the names, and their parents, they're like, oh, okay, just be patient, and God will reward you for your patience. And I'm always from the pulpit, no, we need to report every single incident, and we do report as many incidents as we receive to our local law enforcement. We have reported many incidents, and this is how we work with our local law enforcement, just to let them know what happened. Now, I know that many of these hate crime and hate incidents against the Muslim community, again, are underreported. But also, I believe that there is no category for anti-Islam hate or anti-Muslim hate, because we go under others. I know that there is anti-Semitism hate, anti-Black American hate, anti-LGBTQ hate that are categorized based on the name of the community. But I don't think there is anti-Muslim hate. So anything reported goes under other. So I would like to take this opportunity to ask for an action to categorize the Muslim community as a community that is have been receiving hate crimes, hate mail, any type of hatred against our individuals, our schools, and our religious institutions. Also, I would like to request, I know that you do hold regularly, I don't know how many times a year, an in-person forum of the commission. And I would like to invite you to have the next one right here in San Diego, and I'll be more than happy to host the in-person forum at the Islamic Center of San Diego. So this is what I wanted to share with you today about the incident that happened on Monday, May the 18th, and also in general, the state of hate that is targeting the Muslim community here in San Diego. I work with a lot of religious leaders. I'm part of several interfaith coalitions right here in San Diego. We talk about this. We address these issues. As a matter of fact, right after the terrorist attack on Monday the 18th, we have been overwhelmed with so many messages and visits showing support and love and unity from everywhere in San Diego County, from everywhere in the state of California, and from everywhere all over the nation, and even from overseas. We have seen many support from faith leaders, from religious leaders, from congregations, from all over the place. We have been working with our elected officials as well to talk about what happened and what are the actions needed to provide a protection to our religious institutions. Our religious institutions are supposed to be the most peaceful places on earth. People come to the Islamic Center of San Diego to worship, to meditate, to connect with God, to get together as a community, to celebrate. So houses of worship are not battlefields, are not supposed to be targeted by people who carry in their hearts hatred towards that specific congregation or that specific religious community. So this is what I wanted to share with you, dear commissioners, in this meeting. And I look forward to your comments. I look forward to your actions at the state level to show what you can do as a commission and how you can influence our elected officials in the state assembly and the state senate, and how you can push them to come up with policies to address the issue of hatred towards the American Muslim community right here in the state of California. Again, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I truly appreciate it on behalf of my community right here in San Diego, California. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Imam Hussain, for those important and poignant words. I'm going to now turn it over to Chair Levin to facilitate further.
Thank you so much. This is our, oh, I'm sorry, before I do that, we just have a hand up from Commissioner Suthers. So I just, if we could just hear from him before I speak. Commissioner Suthers, the floor is yours.
Actually, Chair Levin, I don't want to supersede your comments. I just wanted to know when we do have the opportunity to ask questions or speak to the Imam, I'd like to do that.
Absolutely, and it will come directly after this statement. So thank you so much. And the statement is in solidarity with the Muslim community of California following the vile terror attack at the Islamic Center of San Diego. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome and peace be upon all of you. We are here to support a faith community still grieving over a vile terrorist attack that occurred in our state just weeks ago. In supporting our Muslim brothers and sisters, we not only embrace them, but also two core American values that we mutually share: the divinity of human life and the centrality of individual liberty, particularly in the area of religious freedom, not only for our individual lives, but our collective ones as well. Dr. King wrote about this interdependence eloquently in his letter from a Birmingham jail. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. A horrendous attack on a mosque is an attack on every house of worship. An attack on our Muslim neighbors and friends is an attack on the very idea of a pluralistic America. And the answer is not to retreat from one another, but to draw closer. And in that respect, we will work on forthwith, Imam, your request to have some kind of event at your center. The only thing I would add is with respect to making sure that we can have a secure environment for our neighbors and not make things less safe. But absolutely, I as chair promise you that.
Thank you.
My pleasure, my honor. Hatred has never had the final word in this country, and it will not have it now. The sanctity of human life is central to the Islamic faith in the Quran. Surah Al-Ma'idah 532 mandates, and if anyone saved a life, it would be as if he saved the life of all mankind. True heroes, Mansour Kazia, Nadir Awad, and Amin Abdullah did just that, but 140 times over. With extraordinary grace, Amin Abdullah's daughter, Hawa, recounted how that heroism was a lived and internalized trait for her father. And I quote, "The fact that so many lives were saved because of him is not a surprise to us," she said, "because that's who he was. He was courageous, he was sincere, he was loving, and he always put other people first, and it cost him his life." Various faiths and societies beyond the Abrahamic family also embrace saving lives, the reduction of suffering and peace. So let all of us, those of faith or not, as diverse as our backgrounds are, honor their selfless heroism on behalf of our community's most vulnerable, our little children. Moreover, to our Muslim neighbors in San Diego, California, and indeed around the world, we stand with you, particularly through this extraordinarily painful time. With regard to our mutual appreciation of the centrality of religious liberty in our America, one need Look no further than the words of our foundational text and those of our founding fathers and others that followed. Pluralism and religious freedom transcend the bigoted morass of contemporary politics and are critical to our moral framework as a nation that dates back to our Genesis and makes America, certainly in our aspirations, truly exceptional. Our American Constitution's Article 6 bans religious tests for any office or public trust. The First Amendment prohibits the establishment of religion, as well as laws impeding the free exercise of it. And the 14th Amendment guarantees equal protection of the laws. Of the myriad accomplishments of his life, Thomas Jefferson, a slaveholder, nonetheless, America's second president, picked only 3 items to appear on his epitaph for his tombstone. Author of the Declaration of American Independence and of the Statute of Virginia for religious freedom, and father of the University of Virginia. Over 2 centuries ago, President George Washington promised America's religious minorities that this is a country which, quote, gives to bigotry no sanction, to persecution no assistance. He ended his letter to the Toro Synagogue, may the children of the stock of Abraham who dwell in this land continue to merit and enjoy the goodwill of the other inhabitants, while everyone shall sit in safety under his own vine and fig tree, and there shall be none to make them afraid. A century and a half later, Justice Robert Jackson wrote for the Supreme Court in West Virginia versus Barnett that, quote, if there is any fixed star in our constitutional constellation, it is that no official, high or petty, can prescribe what shall be orthodox in politics, nationalism, religion, or other matters of opinion, or force citizens to confess by word or act therein. And days after September 11th, 2001, President George W. Bush from inside a mosque told the nation that American Muslims should be treated with respect and, quote, they love America just as much as I do, and that those who attack them betray the very country they claim to defend. That's not the America I know. That's not the America I value, he concluded, respecting anti-Muslim prejudice. And indeed, on September 11th, I told Gannett News Service that it would be a tragedy if we would have religious intolerance against Muslims over this terrible attack that took place. We have drifted, though, far from those words. For more than 2 decades since, anti-Muslim prejudice has been laundered through our politics and social media, in travel bans aimed at Muslim-majority countries, in campaign rhetoric that treats an entire faith writ large as some kind of security threat, in surveillance programs that monitored mosques and student groups, and in influencers and elected officials who built careers attacking the loyalty of all our Muslim neighbors or smearing them as un-American. If you don't believe me, let's go and look at the videotape. Whether it be Trump appointee Ben Carson a decade ago on Meet the Press saying, I would not advocate that we put a Muslim in charge of this nation, unquote, calling Islam incompatible with the Constitution, perhaps he should read it sometime. Or that December, when candidate Trump issued a written statement, quote, calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States. Months later on CNN, he told Anderson Cooper, I think Islam hates us. More recently, sitting members of Congress routinely refer to some of their colleagues as members of the, quote, jihad squad. This year, various congressmen have brazenly proclaimed, we need more Islamophobia, not less. That's a quote. Another quote, no more Muslims immigrating to America, and Muslims don't belong here. These are all the words of presidential candidates, presidents, and sitting members of Congress. When leaders speak about Muslims as a problem to be feared and managed, rather than as our neighbors and fellow Americans, they grant evil permission. When they hold inflammatory congressional hearings attacking Sharia law, just as they did just days before this horrid attack, they grant evil permission. That permission travels, and sometimes it brutally ends in words in a Nazified accelerationist manifesto and in bullets and blood by a mosque door of our neighbors on a sunny Monday morning. Words from podiums to keyboards have consequences in parking lots, homes, and prayer halls. And those shadowy accomplices who have spent years stoking suspicion of our Muslim neighbors do not get to anonymously wash their hands of their moral rot on days like this one. And yet, look at who Muslim Americans are. As my friend Masood Akhtar recently wrote, long before today's political noise, fear-mongering, and divisive rhetoric, Muslims were helping build this nation with their labor, intellect, sacrifice, entrepreneurship, patriotism, and unwavering belief, as it was his, in the American dream. From medicine to business, from the military to science, from civil rights to community service, Muslim Americans have strengthened the soul and foundation of this country for generations. Indeed, Masood, they have. Muhammad Ali, who carried American pride into every ring in the world and refused an unjust war at the cost of his title. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Hakeem Olajuwon, whose names are written into the rafters of American sports. Mahershala Ali, the first Muslim to win an Oscar for acting. Imtiaz Muhammad, who fenced her way to an Olympic medal wearing both the American flag and a hijab. Fazlur Rahman Khan, the engineer whose vision shaped the Chicago skyline, including the Willis Tower, formerly Sears Tower, and the John Hancock Center. Army Captain Human Khan, who gave his life in Iraq protecting his soldiers, and whose beautiful Gold Star parents reminded presidential candidates that their son was as American as anyone on that debate stage. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, the first Muslim sworn into the United States Congress, did so on Thomas Jefferson's own copy of the Quran. We're not done. Two Californians now, won separate Nobel Prizes in chemistry. Dr. Omar Yagi, a prominent chemist at the University of California, Berkeley, in 2025, and Dr. Ahmed Zewail from Caltech. Your faith is under attack, but it is not diminished. You have allies who care, including many like me, who pray to the same God as you. Your heroes belong here. You belong here. Your children belong here. Your beautiful prayers belong here. And the same country that once promised to bigotry no sanction still belongs, fully, equally, and forever to you. And indeed to all of us who treasure our mutual commitment to religious liberty. God bless you, the state of California, and the United States of America. I will now turn the podium over to another exceptional Muslim American, our very own Commissioner and Professor, Ihsan Zafar. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Levin, for those moving words that moved me as well, and thank you to Imam Hassan for trusting us with your story. I'm going to be brief because a lot of the most important words have already been spoken by the Imam and by you, Chair Levin. I'll just say three things. The first is to emphasize the Imam's point, which is that this is not new. So Chair Levin pointed out a lot of the history of this. As he mentioned, I am of American Muslim background. I'm the only American Muslim on this commission. And as a demonstration of this fact, I came to this country as a refugee. And my name was not always Ihsan Zafar. It used to be Ihsan Hussein. And ironically, I fled Kuwait during the first Gulf War. There's always a Gulf War happening. There's one happening right now in the world. And when we got here, there was lots of discrimination. Particularly around my last name, because, it's the similar name to Saddam Hussein, spelled slightly differently. And folks were like, you must be related because bigotry is always tallied with ignorance. And lots of attacks, statements. Our car was set on fire. It's the only car we had. And my dad changed my name. I don't tell the story often, but my father changed my name to his first name, which causes a lot of problems at Starbucks. And the reason I tell the story is for two reasons. One, because look what communities American Muslims, but also many other communities. The Jewish community, for instance, has a long history of changing its names. It's not Warner Brothers, for instance, right? It was Werner Brothers for a long period of time. This is something that the American psyche makes you do, sadly, still to this day. But also, 18 or so years later, after we had to change my name, we elected Barack Hussein Obama to the presidency. And when this happened, when I moved to the country, one of the first things I did is I wrote a letter to the mayor of LA, which was the Mayor Tom Bradley, and I said, you got to fix your refugee assistance program. I think I was like 8 or 9 years old, and he responded, and he fixed it, and I became mayor for a day in LA. It was really nice. The CBS News came and looked at my kind of gave me an interview. As an 8-year-old, I felt like I was on top of the world. And the city of LA changed some policies on the basis of that entire story. And what it taught me was that, like, if something happens like this to you, the United States is a country of contrasts, of deep hate and bigotry, but also tremendous amount of support and love. In fact, lots of donations, much to the chagrin of my parents, flooded in and support, and the sheriff's department contacted us to make sure we were safe and all that stuff. So this is an important point. We should not forget that when good things happen, that there's also an underlying otherness that we have to continually fight. But at the same time, that we have lots of folks in this country, we should not become cynical. That we have a number of folks in this country that are with us and willing to help. For instance, Chair Levin and his emotional statement. And then the other thing I will say is to emphasize what Imam Hassan mentioned, which is getting more practical and brass tacks, which is it's important to have honest data that doesn't minimize the incidents and the hatred that have been happening for decades, but now increasingly against the American Muslim community. The organs of the state are perpetuating this hatred, including the federal government and the Trump administration. So it is not just a cultural thing. It is akin to state policy. And as a state like California that is progressive, that fights back against these issues, it behooves us to fight for the fact that American Muslims, shouldn't be put in another category for hate crimes. And I am also in support as a commissioner to Imam Taha Hassan's request of holding a session. I'd like to put it on the agenda at some point, holding an in-person session at the Islamic Center in San Diego, visiting them after they have healed, to show solidarity and invite other communities, other interfaith communities, to join us at that session as well. So thank you to the Imam, thank you to Chair Levin, my fellow commissioners, and the staff at the Civil Rights Department for creating this opportunity and allowing the story of Imam Hassan and his community to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Zafar. We will now go to commission discussion. So Rebecca, do any commissioners have their hands raised?
Yes,
Oh,
Commissioner Suthers.
thank you, Dr. Goodsell. Dr. Suthers.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Levin. Well, first, I'd like to say to Imam Taha Hassani, my condolences and support to the members and family of the Islamic Center of San Diego, which personally I'm very familiar with. I'm a former FBI agent, and I spent my time in San Diego. And as the events were unfolding that day, I understood that members of your congregation were going to Sharp Hospital, the same hospital my son was born in while I was there. And I also want to ask you a question, but before I do, I want to just applaud the extraordinary staff that we have here that does tremendous work. We're going to present our annual report today. They are just superstars when it comes to data. And even with that, we don't know everything. And Commissioner Zafar, as humble as he is, I'm going to say, again, another example of the talent we have in this commission. I met him when he was a senior advisor to President Obama. And when the Pulse nightclub attack happened, he was the first representative from the White House that was on the ground in Florida. So with that, what I'd like to ask you, sir, and I don't expect an answer today, but I look forward to working with you in the future. With all the work that we do and all the talent we have to find the reports, to find the data, I'd be curious to know, with your personal relationships with your faith leaders across the country, is there a legislative best practice that you've identified that we should pursue for the state of California, particularly as it relates to reporting, but more importantly, as it relates to consequences? The one frustrating thing that's going to become very apparent in our report today is we're doing a better job of identifying the incidents and even a better job of identifying the assailants. But I see nothing in the way of consequences for when these things happen. And so I'm just curious to know if you do know of any legislative best practices in the other 49 states. We'd be very fortunate to hear that from you so we could pursue the same kind of remedies or even improve upon what they may have done. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other commissioners' hand raised, or does the imam wish to respond? It's okay if you don't. Oh, we have two. I saw it was like Jeopardy. They both did at the same time. So I'm going to just go with Chair Emeritus Russell Roybal.
I believe Commissioner Salcedo was before me. I think you just can't see the hand with that background, but I believe Commissioner
Oh,
Salcedo was before.
that's right. I will defer to our Vice Chair Emerita, Commissioner Salceda. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Commissioner Roybal. I wouldn't mind waiting anyways. But I just wanna express my gratitude and appreciation, and also my solidarity to the Muslim community in San Diego and all across the United States. And I also want to say that it was very moving hearing, and I'm sure it was also traumatic for you to relive that experience on that day. And so I want to appreciate your boldness and your courage for coming into our commission to share the unfortunate situation that happened on that day. I also want to say that I appreciate that you mentioned the similarities that we experience as communities with the LGBTQ community and the Muslim community. But I want to also specifically name the hate that trans people are experiencing in this extreme political times. And again, I think this is a reminder of the things that bind us together, right? Rather than create a separation that unfortunately our society continues to create among the most vulnerable populations, most targeted, most hated communities. And so I just want to once again express my love and appreciation to all the Muslim community, and also to say that that we are going to continue to fight, and I'm grateful that you're fighting for the community in San Diego and all over California. And please count with the support of this commission to continue to do the work that you are doing. Thank you so much again, and many blessings to all of you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Salcedo. I love you. I think you're so wonderful. No, you bring such, I don't know what, such compassion to this commission and such lived experience. And also, I think it's so important that we point out that among the folks whose voices are most eloquent today are folks who emigrated to this country and made it a better place, as you have. Commissioner Roybal, our beloved Chair Emeritus, floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Chair Levin. I also want to just extend my thanks to the Imam for being here today and for sharing that experience and that information, and to Commissioner Zafar for your words, and of course Chair Levin for your statement, that it is clear from what was found in the effects of the perpetrators of May 18th that they were targeting lots of communities, and that they had a hatred of Jews and Muslims and queer people, and steeped in white supremacy. And I think it's important to always draw those connections, as Commissioner Salcedo has talked about, that that there is that we share a common that hatred is all connected. And I think sometimes we isolate it per the community that seems to be the target of the attack, but it's really an attack against all of us. And that ideology is unfortunately something that all of us need to be aware of it and to understand the interconnectedness of all of it. I have to depart shortly, but I do want to assure all of you that I will bring this up to Commissioner Cuellar, who is the chair of the Community Forums Subcommittee, and that we will talk about this. And I would like to ask the staff, since I have to depart shortly, to bring any other information that is discussed in the meeting today into that conversation, including the stuff that we talked about earlier with some of the agenda items that we are moving to our next meeting, so that we can have a holistic conversation about addressing all of these things, and taking into account the requests made by our guests today. So thank you, and thank you again for being here.
As directed, we will do that. And thank you so much, Commissioner Roybal. Commissioner Damsky, floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Levin. Thank you, Imam Taha, for joining us today. Thank you for sharing your story and talking with us about your heart, what it's like to live through an experience such as your community has experienced. I've been to your Islamic Center. It's been a bunch of years. As a member of the San Diego community, I felt this attack personally. And I think we all did in one way or another. I want to say no community should experience hate and be targeted like that. As a member of the Jewish community, I know what it's like to look over your shoulder all the time. I know what it's like for our houses of worship to have to spend exorbitant amounts of money to provide for our security when we are at our most vulnerable. And of course, to also protect our children. I like your idea of asking our legislators to find ways to report hate crimes that are directed at Muslims as a separate category. I think that's important and necessary. And I want us to engage in a fuller question before we would consider hosting a forum at your center about the appropriateness of hosting our forums in houses of worship. This is something we've not done before. And at the risk of appearing discriminatory or exemplifying favoritism, I would like our commission to have a fuller discussion before we decide to do that. But I want to thank you for the invitation. That's it for my comments. Thank you, Chair Levin.
Thank you. And if I could just point out a couple of quick things. It looks like preliminary data that I just checked this morning, that in California, we had an increase in anti-Muslim hate crime last year, while there was a decrease nationally. In addition, it appears, and we'll see how these numbers fall out, because there might be a slight change that the Bureau is doing with regard to how they enumerate. But since we don't know that yet, it looks like what we saw, and I think you made an excellent point with regard to actually all our commissioners with regard to how this is a shared suffering. and that worst, it appears that 2025, and we don't want to get ahead of things because I know the AG's got their stuff coming out, and FBI may have stuff coming out toward the end of this month, as early as this month. But the worst year for anti-Muslim hate crime in California, it appears, last year since 2017, and for anti-Jewish, it appears to be a record unless this new enumeration strategy, if it exists, has changed. I also want to thank Commissioner Roybal for coming and making those statements. We will be in touch. And lastly, just with respect to the record, it was not anti-Muslim crimes that were being put into the other category. Anti-Muslim crimes have been counted, not greatly, but have been enumerated every year since federal data has been presented, as well as here in the state. What was not was anti-Arab hate crime, which was put into a larger grouping called anti-ethnic non-Latino. So I just want to make sure, just because we've been looking at this data for decades, and we know there's a severe undercounting. So thank you so much for that. Do we have any other commissioners who would like to make a comment? All right. If we may then go to the public comment section. Rebecca, do we have public comment on Zoom?
We do. I'm going to allow Stacy K to speak. Stacy, once you're unmuted, you will have 2 minutes.
Hi, good morning. I'm speaking to a public comment that I feel is important, and I have a simple question for California versus Hate Commission. Why is California directing Jewish victims of hate to a political advocacy organization headquartered in New York? Bend the Arc is not a California organization. It is a national political organization based on the East Coast that engages in candidate endorsements, legislative campaigns, and political advocacy. Yet somehow it has been elevated by California as a resource for Jews experiencing hate. Why is that? California has one of the largest Jewish populations in the country. We have local Jewish organizations. We have Jewish community centers. We have synagogues. We have security organizations. We have civil rights organizations. We have the California Legislative Jewish Caucus. Why is California versus Hate choosing to elevate a New York-based political organization instead? And I have a second question. What happens to the information collected through California versus Hate's referrals? How is that information used? Who receives it? Is it shared with Bend the Arc? Is it used for political advocacy? Is it used in reports? Is it used to influence legislation? The public deserves transparency. When Californians report hate incidents, they are often sharing sensitive personal information during difficult moments in their lives. They should know exactly where that information is going and how it is being used. The mission of California versus Hate should be helping victims. It should not be steering Californians toward political advocacy organizations or creating the appearance that one political viewpoint speaks for an entire minority community. I urge California versus Hate to explain why Bend the Arc was selected, how victim information is handled, and why organizations with a primary focus on political advocacy belong on a state-sponsored hate reporting website at all.
Thank you so much for your comments. Thank you very much. Do we have any other public comments?
Yes, I will be unmuting Noor. Noor, when I unmute you, you'll have 2 minutes to share your public comment.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me? Hello, all. I have a question for Imam Taha Hassan. So he had shared a call to action to categorize anti-Muslim crimes as a standalone category under anti-religious hate. rather than a nondescript category of other. So the FBI and the San Diego County both track hate crimes and categorize both anti-Muslim under religion and anti-Arab under ethnic and religious under hate crimes. I'm just wondering what Imam Hassan necessarily is referencing when he is asking that we categorize anti-Muslim hate specifically rather than as other, because I'm just not familiar with what he's referencing there. Thank you.
Thank you.
It'd be great if I could get a response, if that's allowed under rules.
It's allowed but not required. But if anyone on our panel or guest speaker would like to respond, they're certainly welcome to.
Yes, I would like to respond to this. And thank you, Noor, for your question. So we just wanted to, for the public, for our elected officials, for our law enforcement, to know how many hate crimes and hate messages and hate incidents are targeted the Muslim community. So we don't want to be under others because we are part of organizations and alliances, and when these hate incidents are reported and there is nothing under anti-Muslim hate, then we're not going to have the resources we need as a community to provide the safety and the protection to our community and to our houses of worship. And also, we're not going to have any attention from our elected officials and lawmakers. So it's very important to have the anti-Muslim hate categorized as it is, so we can have the resources we need, and also we can tackle the policies that should be put in place in order to protect our community. So this is the reason why. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just again, just as record, California since 1995 and the federal government have counted anti-Muslim hate crimes. Although I will say this, they call it anti-Islamic, and I've always asked them to change that to anti-Muslim because it's not anti-Judaic hate crime, right? It's anti. So anyway, but I do think there is an issue with regard to outreach and getting these cases in so that they are part of our institutional framework. Thank you. Do we have any other public comment, Rebecca, on Zoom?
We do, yes. Mirvet Jude, I will allow you to speak. You will have 2 minutes for public comment.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. Thank you so much for doing this. Chair, I really appreciated your words. They were very, very touching. And I'm so glad to be here amongst all of you, honorable commissioners of the anti-hate. Okay, so I am a Muslim American, and I could tell you the first time I was ever called a terrorist, I was 7 years old. And now I'm in my late 40s and nothing has changed, and it's actually gotten worse. And if you look at all the civil rights data in the past 3 years, the hate against Muslims, whether we're talking about schools, workplaces, or abroad, has exponentially grown. And there is not an accurate actually space that reports anti-Muslim data. I know this because I deal with it all day long. I can tell you, as someone who speaks at high schools and junior highs, most children, 80% of Muslim children tell me they're afraid to admit they're Muslim, even though they have clear Muslim names. That is sad. I can tell you, as someone who watches social media and what is normalized in terms of anti-Muslim, anti-Arab, and even anti-Palestinian hate, that this has created the manufactured consent that led these 2 young boys, teenagers, kids that should be planning their futures instead of planning the end of other people's futures, to commit the crimes, the hate crime and the domestic terror that they inflicted on ICSD. Our hearts are broken. Our communities don't even feel safe to go to the mosque. I can tell you, as someone who's constantly in contact with elected officials, I have warned but prior to this, that I felt something was going to happen. And that our community has been, the hate against us is too much. And it's true, most of us don't report because we don't feel like people care about us. So I hope that your commission will do something today, as like hosting this forum with interfaith leaders at ICSD. That should happen. There is nothing wrong with that. I understand that some individuals said that it might be favoritism, but it isn't favoritism. What happened is horrific, and we should all stand together. You standing up with one interfaith community is not saying that you're not standing with another. All of us are shocked. I went to the funeral with my children, and it was the biggest funeral I've ever attended in my life, and I hope I never have to go to a funeral that big again. I stand with all my interfaith community members, my Jewish community, Christian, Catholic, my LGBTQ community, Black community, Latino community, Asian community. But there's nothing wrong with today making this about anti-Muslim hate, because it is a real thing. It is a real thing nationally and internationally. So thank you all for your time, and I hope you consider doing something about what happened at ICSD to prevent this from happening everywhere else. And just know this: hate crimes are still on the rise. And every month.
Thank you. I apologize, but your time is up. But thank you for your eloquent statements. Do we have
next
any
up,
other?
next up we have Usama Mokadim, and I will be allowing you to speak. You'll have 2 minutes to make your public comment.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. First, I'd like to thank you all for putting together this session. My name is Usama Muqaddam. I currently serve as the Legislative and Government Affairs Director at the California chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, CAIR. And we've worked for many years with this commission to address anti-Muslim hate and appreciate the ongoing effort to combat anti-Muslim hate here in California. I also want to thank Imam Taha Hassan for being brave and resilient. I can't imagine, the last few weeks in your life and having to represent your community and take away from being in your community and engaging in the healing process because you have to also represent your community outward and ensure that they're protected ongoing. As the largest Muslim civil liberties organization, both in California and in the nation, CAIR has been really focused on institutionalizing the addressing of anti-Muslim hate. And what we see happen in San Diego does not happen in a vacuum. I won't, repeat what folks have said, but we've seen how things in the media, how elected officials, how fringe groups really push our young people to commit these types of horrific acts. And one thing we've been pushing for, and is really a point of focus, is education. We can really fund, efforts to address this from a criminal justice perspective or a law enforcement perspective, but that won't address the core issues with the type of hate that we're seeing. Education is important, ensuring that students in our schools are hearing about what it means to express hate and to
Osama,
project this hate.
you have 30 seconds.
Thank you. And really the big ask, and we've been pushing for this, it's the bare minimum to support the ICSD community right now. The community is hurting, it's wounded, and it needs to heal with all of us and our support, but also investing in education and legislation to ensure that security and education also happens in our schools, in our communities, and in our places of worship, to ensure that these types of things do not happen again in the future. So thank you all so much for your work, and we look forward to working with you ongoing in the legislature and the administration to address this type of hate. Thank you.
Thank you, and also the survey that you did of students was shockingly disturbing of the level of harassment and prejudice that takes place against our Muslim young students in our state. So thank you so much. Do we have any other folks in the public comment section?
We do, yes. Wendy, I'm going to allow you to speak, and then you'll have 2 minutes to give your public comment.
Hi. I've been to your Islamic Center, and I want to say that I send my deepest condolences. It broke my heart, especially when I saw the children running from the gunfire and their parents ushering them in, how terrified they must have been. I've been to your Islamic Center to speak out against the Muslim ban, and I've been to your Islamic Center to stand in solidarity when Christchurch massacre happened. Um, I think that the best way to go forward is being that, I'm Jewish and we are facing also so much anti-Semitism and hate exasperated, like Mervet said, by the internet, is to get to know each other in person and to have meetings, yes, focused on Islamophobia at the Islamic Center, anti-Semitism at the Jewish Center, Christian hate at the Christian Center. I think there should be meetings at various religious centers, bringing in community with everyone attending and getting to know each other again, to build relationships where we could fight against the problem of extremism. And I just want to correct, I don't know which commissioner said it. I don't believe this attack was white supremacy because both of those boys were mixed POC. I think it's a hate. Maybe I don't know if it was Christian nationalism, or just nationalism, but there was a hate that infected their brains for almost everyone that wasn't them.
You have 30 seconds.
Oh, so I just wanted to extend that we should have open doors and be making these efforts towards many targeted communities. And there could be dedicated time in dedicated houses, but we have to come together, or all of our children and all our futures are doomed, and nobody has freedom of religion in a place where they need armed guards to go practice.
Thank you so much. Do we have just one quick thing? We saw a white supremacist attack by a Latino at a Texas mall a couple of years ago. So what's very interesting, look at Nick Fuentes. So white supremacy can, believe it or not, cross many groupings. And I'll leave it at that for now. One of the things I intend to have is one of the nation's foremost experts to address our commission as well. You can see we're getting packed. Do we have, at a subsequent meeting, do we have any other public comment on Zoom?
No other public comment on Zoom.
Thank you so much, Dr. Goodsell. Adrian, do we have any emailed public comment?
No email public comment.
Zeleny, do we have any public comment in the room in Sacramento? All right. Without further ado, I will then move to agenda item number 4. But I want to say that our condolences, Imam, are with you. I am happy to meet with you anytime, and we will address this alarming increase that we've seen with regard to violence and religious-based hate crime. Oh, before I move on, I'm sorry, our Vice Chair Emerita has her hand up. The floor is yours, Commissioner Dan.
Thank you, Chair Levin. I was hoping that we could take a brief recess before we move on to our next agenda item.
I am fine with that if our staff is fine with that. All right. Why don't we take a recess and be back at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time? Is that all right, everyone? Okay. We will take a brief break. We will return at 10:30 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, welcome back all. Thank you so much. We're going to now move to agenda item number 4, discussion and action regarding the 2025-2026 annual report of the commission. There will be some presentations and then discussion and public comment after. I would, though, like to take a moment to congratulate the wonderful scholars and staff who work so diligently to put their arms around a very big and evolving problem. So before I turn over to our esteemed Deputy Director Watts from CRD, I just want to make sure, because oftentimes when we're in the hubbub of things, we forget to thank the people who make our work possible. So to all of you who've done such a beautiful job on this report, and I think members of the public and fellow commissioners will see, thank you so much. Kudos on just an excellent job. And I will now turn the floor over to Deputy Director Watts.
Thank you, Chair Levin. Good morning, commissioners. So I would like to take the time in the meeting today to first review the key sections in the report for the commission. Each of the staff will walk through the sections that they authored. Afterwards, we will open the floor to commission discussion and also public comment. Once we gather all that feedback, we'll then think about next steps. So there's a number of actions the commission could take or not take to advance the report. And I'll go over those options at the end of our presentations and at the end of discussing feedback. Because what the commission ultimately ends up doing kind of depends on the type of feedback we get. So to start us off with a presentation of the report, I'm going to turn it over to Adrian.
Thank you, Alec. So the first thing we want to highlight is just some updated data from the California Health Interview Survey. So these are data that are featured in Chapter 2 of the report, where we examine updated data from the 2024 California Health Interview Survey, which surveys 20,000 households in California. Of particular note, in 2024, an estimated 9% of Californian teens and adults experienced at least one act of hate. This corresponds to approximately 3.1 million Californians. Of those 3.1 million people who experienced hate, nearly 3 in 4 reported that they experienced multiple acts of hate. The median number of hate acts that people experienced in all of California was about 3. When we also examined differences among adults and teens and whether there are trends by year. So for example, in this figure that you can see right here, we see that hate victimization rates were different among adults between 2023 and 2024, and that statistic is significant, while there were the differences between teens in 2023 and 2024 were not different. We also do comparisons with the 2023 and 2024 CHIS data alongside California Department of Justice data, and we find that the number of victims for hate-motivated property damage or physical violence in California is much higher in the CHIS data than the Department of Justice data, emphasizing those differences in the likelihood to report. With that, I'll hand it off to my colleague, Dr. Kevin Thomas, to highlight more about communities in California.
Thank you, Adrian. So also in Chapter 2, we have a section that summarizes recent patterns and trends in hate against specific communities or groups with shared identities in California. And this draws from multiple data sets, including quantitative data from the CHIS survey, annual hate crime statistics compiled by the California Department of Justice. And we also incorporate information from community-based organizations, public comments from meetings like this one, testimony that's shared during community forums, and also news reports in the media. So we understand that this is not an exhaustive list. It's simply meant to kind of highlight the challenges faced by particular vulnerable communities here in California. Communities continue to be faced disproportionately higher rates of hate than the overall California population. So if we kind of break it down to some specific groups, by race, ethnicity, and national origin, we see that Black African Americans continue to make up the largest share of hate crimes. The Latinx population experiences persistent hate, especially tied to language and perceived immigration status. When we're looking at Asian and Pacific Islander populations, Hate incidents can be fueled by xenophobia, and geopolitical scapegoating is something that we've seen, particularly in media coverage of hate within that group. With indigenous populations, continue to experience cultural targeting, and often this is compounded by rural isolation in parts of California that are not as populous and resourced. Moving to anti-immigrant hate, highly vulnerable to hate linked to perceived foreignness, and of course, legal status, as we've seen with changes at the federal level. Hate against religious communities, identity-based targeting we see is big here, including harassment, vandalism, and online hate incidences happening. Against LGBTQ+ communities, we see higher levels of hate within this community, especially among transgender and gender nonconforming individuals. Anti-disability hate. Here we see really much a huge link between what's going on there and a sense of stigma placed on that population. And this is compounded by systemic barriers that make reporting and recovery from these types of incidents more difficult. And then lastly, unhoused folks, among the most targeted groups for hate-motivated violence. And this is often dehumanizing and attacked in public spaces with little protection for this population. So you can certainly see these are some extremely vulnerable groups. With that, I will turn it back over to Dr. Watts.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas. We also have a section in Chapter 2 related to hate in public institutions. So we've visited this topic, I think, over the past 2 reports. And we look at this in 2 ways this year. One is we look at how political rhetoric and hate from public officials continues to impact communities. We review examples in which political candidates, public officials, their associates, and others sort of involved in the political realm or the public realm have used hateful language against specific communities. One sort of recurring pattern that we observed in the past year that we discuss in the report is this sort of phenomena where a single high-profile event that involves a single or a few members of a group results in hateful rhetoric against the broader group of which they are a part, changes in policies that impact that entire group, and a wave of hate from the public against that group. So for example, last year we saw a YouTube video about daycare centers owned by Somali people in Minneapolis, and that YouTube video went viral. And what followed was a wave of anti-Somali political rhetoric, the freezing of federal funds for daycare facilities, enhanced immigration enforcement operations, and a wave of threats and harassment from the public, which led to fear and panic within the Somali community in Minneapolis and other places. The report also discusses the sort of inverse of this relationship, which is hate, threats, and harassment that is directed at public officials. The report discusses instances in which political officials were targeted by hate and political violence, and reviews data on what appears to be an emerging trend of increased political violence and, to some extent, public support for political violence. One data point, I just included this here as an example, is one survey has found that in 2025, over half of local officials, especially women, reported being insulted, 37% reported harassment, and 17% reported being threatened. We also noted that high-profile acts of political violence can lead to spikes in hostility against public officials and communities. Next slide, please. And now I'll turn it over to Dr. Bekong.
Thank you, Dr. Watts. So in Chapter 3, Enhancing Resources and Supports, we actually highlight new data from the 2024 California Health Interview Survey, noting the impact of hate among teens and adult victims in California. Of particular note, in 2024, nearly 3 in 4 adult teen and Californians who experienced hate had an adverse outcome related to the Hate Act. Now, these adverse outcomes mostly varied. Most notably, 64% of Californians who said that they experienced an adverse outcome related to hate noted that they had negative effects on their mental health. Additionally, 26% of Californians who indicated that they experienced an impact related to a hate act indicated that they changed their behaviors, such as changing the hours when they go shop at the local grocery store to altering the types of public transportation that they use. We highlight actually many of these stories, as well as others, using qualitative data from 50 in-person or 50 interviews rather with participants from the California Health Interview Survey. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Oh, yes, there we go. Resources and supports. So in chapter 3 as well, we also look specifically at the types of resources and supports that Californians use following a hate act. So of those 3.1 million Californians who experienced hate in 2024, nearly 40% received support following a hate act. Most notably, mental health services was the most used support following a hate act. About 20% of victims in California used mental health services following their most severe hate act. Despite a sizable number of Californians receiving support following a hate act, 31% of victims indicated that they had unmet needs following hate act. Interestingly enough, mental health services remain the top unmet need among Californians, followed by help with law enforcement and physical protection for their safety. The qualitative data from the California Health Interview Survey provides additional highlights on Californians' barriers to receiving and getting help following a hate act. Next slide, please. And finally, we end this news section highlighting the impacts of hate, as well as the resources and supports following a hate act, and as well as unmet needs by writing out 5 interim recommendations on these to expand these ideas. One of them being expanding protected leave for victims for hate crimes, expanding eligibility for wage replacement programs for victims of hate crimes, promoting the awareness of mental health impacts, especially given that many individuals chose to use mental health services following their most severe hate act, expanding access to digital mental health services for hate victims, and finally, establishing new policies and initiatives to increase awareness of job-protected leave, wage replacement programs, and other resources for hate victims. And with that, I will pass it over to my colleague, Dr. Goodsell.
Thanks, Adrian. So in the next section of the report, we focus on 3 main ideas related to improving law enforcement responses to hate. So 1, gaps in data on hate crimes. 2nd, gaps in training on hate crimes. And 3rd, public perceptions of the role of law enforcement in responding to hate. And I'll share some of the high-level findings for these gaps now, but you can, of course, read more in the report. So first, with regard to gaps in data on hate crimes, we estimate that less than 1% of adult and adolescent victims of hate-motivated physical violence or property damage in California are represented in law enforcement data. And so we found this by comparing the CHIS data to data from the California Department of Justice. We also found that there were 13 counties for which there were 0 hate crimes recorded in law enforcement data in 2024. And we find this as a gap because it's unlikely that there are no hate crimes occurring across the combined population of these 13 counties. And the combined population is a little less than 500,000 people, and we find it unlikely that there are no hate crimes occurring there. We also found that only a few law enforcement agencies were posting monthly updates to their hate crime data on their website. With regard to gaps in training on hate crimes, we found first that there are no active statewide requirements for hate crimes trainings after law enforcement officers are appointed or sworn in. Though there's a requirement in the penal code, one provision in the law could be interpreted to mean that this requirement is not in effect until an appropriation of funds has been made. Second, there's a lack of research on the effectiveness of existing trainings. And last in this section, we present insights from victims of hate in California. This is the same survey that Dr. Bakong spoke about earlier from the CHIS interview survey, where they interviewed 53 victims of hate on their experiences, in addition to the broader survey. But from those interview accounts, we show the importance of providing victims of hate access with resources, even when the hate experienced is not classified as a crime. In the next section in the chapter, we present findings from a research project to understand more about the impacts of hate crime sentencing enhancements. So specifically, we partnered with the Possibility Lab at UC Berkeley to review the research on 1, whether enhancements deter hate crimes, 2, whether they help to provide a sense of support for victims and communities impacted by hate, and 3, their symbolic impact. Through a systematic review of the literature and interviews with experts, we find that there is limited empirical evidence on these topics. We also encountered no conclusive empirical evidence on the deterrent effects of hate crime enhancement. We found that while in some cases hate crimes enhancements may have a supportive function for victims and communities, there's variation in the extent to which they do so. One of the main factors in this is that they are an offender-focused approach to preventing and responding to hate crimes rather than a victim-focused approach. In addition, while the enactment and continued existence of hate crimes laws in California may have an important symbolic value, there's no conclusive empirical evidence that hate crime enhancements successfully signal society's condemnation of hate crimes. In fact, the inconsistent, inequitable, and relatively rare use of enhancements in criminal prosecutions may actually undermine any potential symbolic impact. We propose that other policy approaches to hate crimes, such as robust support programs for victims, may be better suited to promote symbolic messages about condemning hate, while also providing critical support to victims. And in this report and previous ones, we provide guidance on other policy approaches to hate, including prevention programs and solutions for enhancing the resources and support for victims and communities impacted by hate. In the next section, we describe the characteristics of hate crime offenders, and we do so because understanding who offenders are, why they commit such crimes, and other details about the context of hate crimes is essential for informing prevention strategies and policy responses. We partnered with Anatoly Ulyanov at the UCLA Initiative to Study Hate to review the literature on this topic. And broadly, we found that there's limited, robust empirical research on the characteristics of hate crime offenders. However, we do outline a typology or breakdown of types of hate crime offenders based on the research. We also outline common characteristics of offenders and the context in which hate crimes are committed. There are more details in the report, but two main takeaways are listed on this slide in the table. The first takeaway is that most offenses are not committed by those who are dedicated members of hate groups. And the second takeaway is that many offenses are committed for the sake of thrills and involve social influences like peer pressure and group conformity. And I'm sorry, that was not in the table. What's next in the table, we also describe findings on the relationship between offenders and victims, including findings from the CHIS survey. So as you'll see in the table, adult victims are more likely to report that their offender was a stranger to them. You can see that 64% of adult hate act victims reported that the offender was a stranger to them. And as you can see, this is different for adolescent respondents. 75% of adolescent respondents reported that the offender was known to them. Last in this section, we provide interim recommendations, including establishing data sharing requirements, supporting initiatives targeted at healthy youth development and crime prevention, and deploying evidence-based public messaging campaigns after high-profile hate crime events happen. And then in the next chapter of the report, we start with a section on dialogue across difference. So in this section, we reviewed a selection of programs on dialogue across difference. Specifically, this section includes first, an overview of what these programs are and their potential role in addressing hate. Second, we review intergroup contact theory, which is a motivating framework for some dialogue across difference programs. And we review perspective taking, which is a key component of many programs. We also include a discussion of how these folks show up to these programs, their traits and mindsets can affect the impacts of the programs. Next, we examine some dialogue programs themselves, including first, those used in schools and college campuses, and second, some online programs. And we also include insights learned from experts at our community forums. We find that overall, dialogue across different programs are one important approach to address critical social issues. They're promising when they're thoughtfully designed and implemented, which takes research. They should be considered as one piece of a broader holistic strategy to combat hate and its impact. We include specifics on our related recommendations in this section as well. And next, I will pass it to Dr. Kevin Thomas to talk about the next section in the report on bystander intervention.
Thank you, Dr. Goodsell. And so, yeah, we also did an extensive literature review of relevant literature related to bystander intervention programs, bystander intervention training programs. Bystander intervention trainings are frequently conducted by community-based organizations to equip participants with the skills and kind of mental mindset to intervene successfully when they witness harmful behaviors or situations. So given their widespread use, we reviewed research on how effective these trainings are at reducing the prevalence of severity of hate incidences in the state. So bystander intervention programs are grounded in behavioral theories, most notably theory of planned behavior. And it attempts to address the bystander effect. And the bystander effect is when you're in an emergency situation, the presence of other people can reduce the likelihood that any one person or any group of people in that group will intervene. The idea being that someone thinks, well, someone else will step in. And so it tries to address this idea of the bystander effect in 3 specific ways. One, by fostering positive attitudes, by building empathy towards folks that may be experiencing hate or experiencing an emergency situation that needs intervention. 2, by normalizing intervention itself, so normalizing intervention behaviors, by emphasizing that this is a social norm that we are expected to do, whether in public or in a more private interpersonal situation, that intervention is the best form of action when it is needed. And thirdly, by enhancing the ability to intervene by teaching specific skills and strategies, such as the 5 Ds, which is 5 ways that someone can interact with someone that is in a situation. 5 Ds being you can directly respond to the situation, you can try to distract the person that is causing the emergency to come up. You can delegate, try to find someone else that can help. You can delay after the event is over, check in on the person that was impacted, and you can document via pulling out your phone or just taking notes to see what's going on. So afterwards, you can help out that way. So those are kind of the 3 key things that these trainings are trying to do. After an extensive look at the research, we looked at over 70 relevant articles. Research does indicate that these trainings can significantly improve attitudes towards intervention, and as well as confidence in intervening and the willingness to intervene. However, the evidence is limited at best that shows that these trainings actually do reduce levels of violence specifically. Research also indicates that such trainings are most effective when the broader context of issues is also taken into account. So issues like cultural background, identity specifics between the victim and the perpetrator, and those that might be in the bystander group. Psychological safety, meaning do people feel like they have the safety to speak up or to act on behalf of the victim. And then if it's taking place in a specific organization, the organizational dynamics, whether that be workplace culture or so forth, needs to be in a place where people feel safe to intervene as well. And so with that, we do see that there's still quite a bit of data limitation in this area. So we are recommending that more research be done to really understand the long-term benefits of bystander intervention training. Most of the research that we looked at are dependent on self-reported data. And so having more reports that move beyond that. There's also a lack of long-term evaluation. So trying to get a better sense of what happens 6 months, a year plus after the training to see what actually sticks, and are there some issues that need to be addressed ongoing, not just a one and done type of training. And then lastly, limited testing specifically focused on hate prevention. Much of the work that's done in this area looks at sexual relationships and issues on college campuses is quite high as well. And so we do think that more research needs to be done in other contexts specifically related to hate prevention. Right. And so with that, I will turn it back over to Dr. Watts to close this out.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas, and thank you to staff. Let's see. So at this point, we could open the floor to commission discussion in order to receive your feedback and public comment. In terms of next steps, I'll just go over this real quick so everyone knows, just to give you a preview here. So the commission has a few options here after the discussion. So one thing that could be done in the meeting today is the commission could vote whether to advance the report and delegate the non-substantive changes to staff. These non-substantive changes include things like graphic design, copy editing, adding a table of contents, etc. Another thing the commission could do today is vote to advance the report and delegate non-substantive changes to staff, as I just mentioned, but also delegate the substantive changes in response to the feedback that we received today to the chair, vice chair, and staff. In other words, the staff will work with Chair Levin, Vice Chair Che to consider all the feedback and work on any revisions to the report. And once we're satisfied with that, we'll advance it. Another option the commission has, this is the third option, is to delay voting on the report. The staff will attempt to address all the feedback that we receive as quickly as possible. Depending on the nature of the feedback, we may be able to do this in time for the June 24th meeting. Just remember, we have to sort of incorporate the feedback and send it to you all in time for you to review it and provide additional feedback if needed. So that would be a third option that's that the commission could consider. But I just want to put that ahead of you so you know that. And with that, I think we can open the floor to commission discussion. Commissioner Zafar.
Okay, I am, if it's okay, Chair Levin, I'm going to try to give you all of my comments in one go.
Go
That
for
may
it.
save some time. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
All
Floor is
right.
yours.
Okay. Real quick, Dr. Southers talked about where the consequences when the imam was speaking. That was a good question. I did note from the commentary about the Possibility Lab. A little jealous about that name. I mean, I like the difference engine, but a little jealous that they took that name. That there's no robust evidence that sentence enhancements deter hate crimes for support victims. I think that's somewhat dispositive and responsive to your question, Dr. Southers. The other thing that was interesting to me was that under 1% of California hate crime offenders, I think it was like 1 out of 170 or 1 out of 169, are mission-driven or organized hate group members. So most are not formal extremists. I don't know if this is highlighted, but also kind of responsive to Dr. Southers' question. There was a data point that seemed kind of buried in a table, and this is related to what Chair Levin brought up. Why am I losing my voice at the wrong time? About the Arab American data being missing. And that was the fact that MENA victimization is 15%, which I think is the highest rate of any racial or ethnic group above African Americans and American Indians and Alaska Natives. Given the fact that the imam spoke today, I don't know if there's some way to add a paragraph about this that's not buried in a data table into the report so they can be used by advocacy groups and others looking at these issues. And then the last thing I'll say, again, related to what Chair Levin brought up. I'm so sorry. The draft still says anti-Islamic. If we're going to standardize around categories that other states may use as well, I think it's important for us to say anti-Muslim relates to the individual rather than the faith-based group. But these are not big issues. I thought the report was fantastic, and I want to commend the staff on their hard work. And I'm so proud of the work that you've done. Thank you.
Do we have any other commissioners that would like to offer their comments and suggestions? Floor will be yours, and then I will go after the last commissioner.
It looks like Dr. Southers is next.
Dr. Southers, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Chair Levin. And thank you, Commissioner Zafar, for noting that information regarding sentencing enhancement. Is, for those of you who don't know, Commissioner Zafar and I have worked in this space for many, many years, and unfortunately, sentencing enhancement has never been a deterrent to extremist violence and/or terrorism. But I think it would be important for the public to know that a sentence enhancement, if it's possible, was applied in that case. I have a couple of comments here. The first is I would like to refer to Dr. Thomas. And again, let me just start by saying the report is extraordinary as always. The staff did a wonderful job. On bias motivation of hate, particularly on page 19, I don't know that we've seen this before or made note of it, but race or skin color was 55%. That's more than twice the percentage of the next closest category. What I found equally alarming was that on page 23, many anti-Black hate acts include physical violence committed by a group of people. What does that mean? And are these groups of people being identified? Are these organizations? Are these other movements? And I think that that's something that as we respond to all hate incidents, response to this kind of activity should be a priority. If this is an organized effort to target anybody, particularly in this case, people of color and in this case, specifically Blacks. The last comment I have is sort of akin to what I mentioned previously in other meetings. I think we should engage in an effort, and if I missed it, I apologize, to find out if we've identified or implemented any communities out there who have identified or implemented amendments to open meeting laws in response to politically related hate. I think that although we all agree with what kinds of provisions the First Amendment provides, there are open meetings that are, for lack of another way to say it academically, totally absurd with regards to the language that takes place and the actions that are allowed under the First Amendment. So I'd like to know, are there any communities in the state of California that have addressed that in a way that you can have a civil discourse and respectfully disagree on topics being discussed by that organization? And Chair Levin, thank you for your time.
Thank you as always. Do we have any other commissioners that would like to make a statement or suggestion?
Yes, Commissioner Adamski.
Commissioner Adamski, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Levin. I want to thank our staff for an amazing report. In looking at this one in comparison to our previous annual reports, the readability of this one is amazing. It's easy to digest. It's easy to understand. It uses language that are what's the word I want to use? Accessible to anybody who would want to read it. And I found the lengthy discussion that talks about the depth and breadth of hate incidents absolutely devastating. It was such a painful portion to read, and I'm so glad to see that we have included that. I have a few questions and comments that I also have already forwarded to staff, but I'll read them here so that everybody can know about them. On page 3, and I was looking in my comments at the Microsoft version of the document rather than the PDF, in case the pagination is a little different between the two. Page 3, second paragraph, we have a phrase, foreign versus other, and I'm wondering if that is the phrasing that was intended here, and whether we are meaning to say, quote unquote, American versus other, or quote unquote, American versus foreign. I'm not exactly sure what the meaning was that was meant in that phrase. On page 9, I wondered, a question came up for me about whether we talk about the impact and importance of witnessing hate by people who see it. I know that we talk later in the report about people who are bystanders who choose to interrupt hate, but this raised some questions for me about how witnessing hate impacts people who see it, who are not themselves the victims of it. On page 19, Commissioner Suthers also mentioned this, where we talk about bias motivations of hate due to political ideology. Is there a way to include that data? And can the other category that is listed here be sussed out about who that other category includes? On page 22, I noticed that we have data for Middle Eastern North American hate crimes for 2020. I'm sorry, not for 2023, but for our more recent year. And I'm wondering if this is because data in 2023 was not recorded at that time for this population, and if so, should that be noted in the comments? Page 34, and in many other places, we have the word anti-Semitism with a hyphen between anti and Semitism. I want to note that this particular spelling is outdated and should no longer be used because it implies that there is a quote unquote Semitism that is being opposed. Anti-Semitism is a term that was coined specifically to indicate hatred towards Jewish people and should be written throughout the document without the hyphen. Let's see. On page 49, in the first paragraph, we talk about the victims of the firebombing in Colorado. It should be added that one of the victims, an elderly Jewish woman, later died from her injuries. On page 51, interim recommendations. I think it could be useful to add civic education on civil discourse, meeting procedures, and codes of conduct in public meetings. This is also related to Commissioner Souther's previous comments. I noticed that there are some things going on in the world of anti-Semitism that I've not heard addressed in this commission before, and it may be because they're not in the news enough for people to be aware of them. One of them is that anti-Semitism is showing up in the medical community. There are healthcare practitioners, including doctors, dentists, and acupuncturists, who have been saying online that they will harm or refuse to treat Jewish patients. This has been an issue at UCSF Medical School. In the mental health field, anti-Semitic practitioners are debating whether Jewish patients have legitimate concerns and quote unquote deserve care for the stress of experiencing anti-Semitism. There are lists boycotting Jewish healthcare practitioners, saying that no one should trust them with their healthcare because they quote unquote support Israel/genocide. In response, Jewish healthcare practitioners have found it necessary to generate secret lists for providing support to each other as professionals and for providing referrals for care for Jewish patients. Free online mental health services and groups for the Jewish community have appeared and grown over the last couple of years. National campaigns boycotting foods from Israel target Trader Joe's stores and other stores, depriving Jewish customers of cultural foods and creating an environment where they feel neither safe nor welcome. And other lists boycotting Jewish businesses, institutions, and elected officials also circulate online. We also need to add a discussion about the horseshoe theory of anti-Semitism, with Jews caught in the middle between growing anti-Jewish hate on the extreme left and on the extreme right, and how these manifest differently but overlap, and the hate-free space is narrowing. It is worth providing data comparing the percentage of California's population that is Jewish to the percentage of anti-religious hate crimes that are directed at Jews. On page 75 in motivations, what motivates people to perpetrate hate crimes, I'm wondering whether printing these ideologies might actually cause them to spread. I'm not saying we should not discuss them, but it occurred to me that sometimes, like we see with hate manifestos, when people print these online, they often inspire other peoples with hate ideologies to follow suit. And let's see. Oh, on page 161 in all of our tables on data, I see that we have no data on hate crimes towards lesbian, bisexual, and queer women specifically. We have LGBTQ and we have trans, but not women specifically. I wonder if there is no data and whether this is worth pointing out additionally. And that concludes my comments. Again, I want to thank staff for the tremendous work that went into this report. And the level of detail is exceptional. And I look forward to seeing the final version when it comes out. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I just wish you were more thorough. Do we have, that was a joke. Do we have any other commissioners that would like to offer suggestions or comments?
Yes, Commissioner Salcedo.
Commissioner Salcedo and our beloved Vice Chair Emerita. The floor is yours.
Thank you. First, I want to begin by expressing my appreciation and gratitude to the staff who just put countless hours into making this great report possible. I also want to appreciate my fellow commissioners for providing the comments and feedback that are super important to have the best possible report that we can put out there. I am wondering, and this is maybe a process question, but I would like to propose, or maybe a motion, if we can delay the vote for our meeting in June 24. I'm not sure if we get public comment for the report. And if that's the case, we can at least give people a week or something to provide any type of feedback and incorporate those, and maybe have a vote on the 24th. I'm not completely sure if that is, if that is, it's just a process question. And I'm not sure if you can answer that question, Brian Levine, or somebody from the staff.
What I think we'll do is we'll look at the choices that we have up and with regard to next steps. And after I offer some suggestions, we'll vote on it. I think that's we'll take into account your concerns, and we'll take a vote as to which of the next steps we should do. If I could just remind folks, though, they're under a very tight statutory timeline. So we might be taking a lot of the time that they would need to actually incorporate some of the suggestions that they're getting now. So, but we'll
Okay.
we'll
So yeah, I actually did. So it was sort of like asking a question, but also making the motion, right? So if I could refine my motion, I would like to propose that we table the voting on the report until June 24th. And then I guess those are some of the three options that are proposed in the next step. So that's my proposition. If there's no second, then I guess it dies.
All right. But what I'd like to do, though, is make my substantive comments with respect to the report before we go into any motions, because I wanted to make sure all the
Okay,
commissioners.
so we're tabling my motion then.
No, we're tabling just for a couple of minutes.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
We take everyone here very seriously. So thank you. Are there any other commissioners that want to offer suggestions or comments relating to the report?
Yes, Commissioner Damsky had her hand up.
Commissioner Damsky, floor is yours.
Thank you. I was going to second Commissioner Salcedo's motion, but we can hold on to that for now.
Okay. If I may, thank you. Do we have any other commissioners that have observations relating to the report itself as opposed to procedural issues? Okay, I'm just going to go into some of my suggestions. Fantastic report. Just first of all, thank you. You put a bunch of PhDs in a room and a bunch of great staff, and you come up with great stuff. Just a couple of observations. First of all, 2025 is not a record overall, but it is in the top few, at least from the latest preliminary FBI data we have. But for some groups, like Jews and Latinos, the preliminary data indicates a record. So perhaps we should mention that. I think we should include a mention of the terrible terror attack on the Islamic Center of San Diego. Also, now there is some issue with regard to how we state things. But I think it would be useful to put in something about red flag laws. Look at what the heck just happened in San Diego. Okay, with regard to access to weaponry. So we don't necessarily have to endorse it if it puts us into some administrative strait, but we can say that many policymakers are reviewing the efficacy of red flag laws. I would do the same thing with respect to the homeless. For those of us who've had loved ones who've been homeless or who know folks that have been homeless, the level of violence is astronomical. And I'm talking about violence, as we've seen with our presentation made by the National Coalition of the Homeless, those without pecuniary or personal gain. These attacks. So that's something I think we should incorporate. Now, again, we can do it in a way that does not get us into any administrative straits. But that's something. The other thing with regard to types of offenders, I think we should include something about offenders with psychological distress. I actually spoke to Jack Levin about that category. He's the fellow who, with Jack McDevitt, came up with that typology, and he seemed to think it was valuable. When we looked at, for instance, during the pandemic, about 40% of those who committed anti-Asian hate crimes in New York had either been classified as an emotionally disturbed person, which is their term of art, or had a previous record with regard to that. Why do I think that's important? Because that's a big part of offenders. And apparently, the offenders, the terrorists that committed the murders in San Diego, at least some of them were under such a referral. Something that mentions that. With regard to sentence enhancements, absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. And when we're trying to contrast, we have no evidence that shows that non-incarceration alternatives work any better. Indeed, one of the things that needs to be done, and hopefully we can maybe get prosecutors involved, is looking at some of the enhancements actually are enhancements for recidivism. So there is some kind of data there. So I would be a little bit more holistic in how we look at this. And all the other thing too is it depends on where you're looking for the evidence. So for instance, we are seeing the most violent kind of attacks go up, but some of the lesser penal code, I don't mean lesser as far as impact, I mean just as far as penal code severity, have diminished. So for instance, it looks like we're seeing a record for aggravated assaults in California, for instance. And again, we talked about a record for anti-Jewish preliminarily, and anti-Latino, and probably I think anti-transgender, but I'll have to look at that. So if we could just perhaps acknowledge in there that that there's also that similar absence of evidence with regard to alternatives, because we don't have studies really looking broadly as to how successful those alternatives are. And I think we need to be honest about that. And plus, for many communities, the invocation of a hate crime charge is a recognition of that added harm. And lastly, with regard to bystander intervention training, which I like, we've seen instances where bystanders have been murdered. And I think we have to, for instance, up in the Pacific Northwest, with an anti-Muslim incident that took place on public transit. So I think we have to acknowledge that there are risks regarding that as well. Lastly, we use the term offense in a way that might not be clear because it's a legal term of art as well. But let me just conclude by saying what an incredibly well-researched, when you get down to those footnotes, it sounds really terrible, but we have some professors on this panel. So A plus with nonetheless, and I want to thank everyone for their involvement in this very valuable report, and also which is stunningly alarming. No matter how you look at the data. So thank you once again, and we have what I'd like to do. Do we go to motions? I think we have to take public comment first. No.
Chair Levin, it would be, we could continue commission discussion before going to public comment, but I'm curious if any commissioners have responses to anybody else's feedback, because we could have that discussion. I also have some sort of follow-up questions. If we're going to try to incorporate this feedback, I have some follow-up questions too for commissioners.
All right. So what we'll do is perhaps listen to some more commissioners, listen to you, and if staff has any comments, and then move on to public comment, and then the motion, if that's okay. All right. And also what I'd like to know, by the way, as we're going to commissioners and staff, is there's a very tight statutory time deadline. So I'd like you to address that before we go to a vote and how that might impact the completion of this excellent report. So to any commissioner or any staff, the floor is yours. Dr. Watts.
Okay, I will, if commissioners, you have any comments to the comments of other commissioners, feel free to raise your hand. Otherwise, I'll just go through my questions. I don't see any hands raised, but feel free to interrupt me. Commissioner Zafar, turning first to some of your points. It was a little hard to hear in parts. I think you said that there was is an anti-MENA hate data point that was buried in the report that you want to see sort of expanded or described in the text. Am I understanding that feedback correctly?
Yeah, let me pull up my notes here for a second.
Okay.
It was there's a data point buried in a table. I can't remember what page it is. But it's the 2024 report, and it says that the Middle Eastern, the MENA category, I think it was added to the GIST report for the first time in 2024, but that MENA victimization was 15%, which is the highest rate of any racial or ethnic group in that report, higher than the other groups. And so to me, that single number, if it's surfaced, especially within the context of what Chair Levin said about adding maybe a paragraph about the attack that just happened. That's helpful. And to the extent that without changing the structure of the report dramatically, it can be tied to the second topic that both Chair Levin and I brought up, which is this confabulation or this missing data point around anti-Arab hate. And this is a broader problem, when we're talking about hate, as you all know, as experts, when we're talking about hate crimes and hate incidents, that there's this gray area between modalities that most people don't care actually who they could, especially the San Diego one, they could go and attack they don't care. They're not actually attacking an exact individual, right? They're not expressing hatred against an individual. It is an otherization, right? So it could be gay folks, it could be a synagogue, it could be a mosque. They don't care that who it is at the mosque that they're attacking. So that mentality reflects itself in the challenge of categorizing these hate crimes in particular. And so I didn't see, unless I'm missing something that talks about that, right? So the gradation or the gradient that comes up. So it's important for us to have categories and have a MENA category and have an anti-Arab category because it's missing from the federal data. But at the same time, there's also this idea that like hate, ironically, does not discriminate against its targets. And so I don't know if there's space for that. That's a secondary comment I've just added. Sorry about that. And then the last thing I think I said was the anti-Islamic versus anti-Muslim categorization nomenclature.
Great. Yeah, got that one. Thank you. That's helpful.
Just a couple of quick things on that. We do now count nationally as well as in the state anti-Arab hate crime. I think it was either 2013 or 2015 that it was pulled out. So I just wanted to make sure that. And by the way, anti-Arab hate crime in California was almost as much as anti-Muslim hate crime in the preliminary FBI data. Oh, by the way, that's one thing. Also in the report, if you could also put somewhere in there, you list all the sources that we also used FBI data as well, so people don't get confused that there's stuff that they're not seeing at the California DOJ website that may be on the FBI website. So, but I just want to make sure that we clear that up. Also, with regard to anti-Islamic, which I have been pushing to change that for many years, that is an FBI designation, so it kind of seeps into everyone else who's required to conform for law enforcement purposes. But I will on your behalf again write to the Bureau and ask them to change that again.
But in our report, I just wanted to say in our report, as long as we use consistent nomenclature, that was all I was concerned about. I agree with you, Chair Levin, that at the federal level, we can be leaders in kind of using the correct terminology. If we don't already.
Absolutely. But if we're quoting a particular entity,
yeah, that's true.
That's the only.
I get it.
But I agree. I'm sorry. Do we have any other commissioner or staff comments?
I'll just continue with some follow-up questions, if that's okay.
Please.
Unless anybody has anything else on those points. Commissioner Suthers, I think you mentioned a sentence related to groups of people attacking essentially Black Californians. I remember that paragraph. Sorry, I don't have the report in front of me. I'm having some technical issues. But I think it was essentially what we'd seen is several media reports in which it was these groups of teenagers. We did. I mean, it's always hard to know exactly the motivations, but it didn't necessarily. The reports didn't imply that they were organized hate groups as much as they were just sort of groups of teenagers. And we sort of see this in the hate offenders section where we talk through the different characteristics of hate offenders, and we see that a lot of hate crimes are these sort of groups of teenagers or groups of young people getting together and doing this. Not necessarily members of organized hate groups, but groups of people. But we'll clarify that in the report just to make sure there's no ambiguity there.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Damsky, thank you for your comments. I appreciate you sending written comments. That's very helpful for us. And with respect to a lot of the reports you mentioned, some of this is news to me. So any citations you have would be very helpful for us. As you know, throughout the report, I think we cite almost every other sentence every time we mention something, and we just want to make sure that people know that this is research. This isn't just our personal perspective. So any citations you can provide for all of that would be very helpful. And
I'll
we'll
work
take a
on
look
that
at
today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Just on that, to Dr. Watts, June 1st, because we can't leave out California institutions, or maybe we can, but I believe it was UC Davis published a study relating to political violence that is in the journal Epidemiology. I will make sure to get it to you. Just came out June 1st.
Thank you. Let me just add that. Okay. Commissioner Zafar, you wrote something in the chat, and I just want to make sure it's on the public record. You wrote accuracy flag footnote 3 says the 2025 CHIS was released in October 2026. The report is dated May 2026. That is a future date written in past tense. Adrian, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's correct, actually. Generally, our reports actually don't come out for another few months, and it'll be past October 2026 by the time the report comes out.
Okay.
So
I'm still new to this, so I guess you're
yeah.
post-dating it.
Just wanted to clarify that for
Sorry,
you.
I'm a lawyer. I look at the wrong dates, and I'm like, something doesn't compute. But I apologize for that. Thanks.
No, that's okay. Just wanted to make sure that you know that we saw that and that we were thinking through it. But we'll make a flag just in case it does come out earlier. We'll flag that so that we can correct it. That's a good example of a non-substantive change that we'll make. Let's see, Commissioner Damsky, I have your comment about LGBTQ women. We'll look into that more. Chair Levin, thank you for your comments. With regard to red flag laws, I do want to flag this is a complicated legal topic that we have not done any research on at all, and we can work with you on adding some information about it, but I do want to sort of tread carefully given how complex this topic is and that we haven't spent time on this. And incorporating this feedback, we're going to have to do it pretty quickly. So I just want to make sure we do it accurately as well.
Sure, but we have two examples. The shooter in LA that was shooting Jews on the street, he already had some contact with the law enforcement, and the most recent attack on this mosque, or how about the Mother Emanuel Church massacre, where he shouldn't have had a weapon, but it was because of a snafu in the records. So and the El Paso massacre, where the family tried to intervene. So I mean, we have enough anecdotal examples where we can certainly say it's something that folks may want to consider.
I think. Okay. So if that's our point that we should consider these laws, I think we can make that point and provide the examples that you provided. I think that's a great idea. Thank you. Great. And then we'll need to say, we'll try to look into that incident that you mentioned of the bystander in the Pacific Northwest. I haven't seen that, but feel free to send over a citation if you have one, and we'll look it up.
It was from Portland, and it was some years ago. I'll get it to you.
Thank you. It's important to flag that. Yes, and all your other comments were straightforward. So I have no other questions. We can, if commissioners have further feedback, happy to receive it. We can also open it up to public comment.
Let's open up to public comment, just because we have a motion. So, and perhaps folks want to listen to members of the public with regard to a pending motion. So, public comment. Rebecca, do we have any public comment on Zoom?
Yes, the first person, their name on Zoom is SHM Membership. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. Oh, actually, I saw the person disappeared. Okay, there's another person on Zoom. Oh, they came back. SHM Membership, I will allow you to speak. You'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Amy Buck, and I am actually here to speak about something else today, but I was deeply moved by the presentation on this report. So I wanted to thank you for providing this report, and I had a couple of comments to make. First of all, I want to thank Commissioner Damsky for her presentation or her comments. I appreciate your comments about anti-Semitism. They're particularly meaningful to me, and I thought your comments about the medical issues and the boycotts were incredibly important. I also want to express my appreciation for marrying the CHIS data, or including the CHIS data, with quantitative data. As a public health person, I really think that it's so important when we can bring those two schools of thought together. And in particular, I want to thank Dr. Thomas for your comments on the theory of planned behavior and the 5Ds. I think one of my disappointments often with reports is that we have reports that sit on a shelf and don't become actionable. And for this commission, when we have AB 1126, which put the commission together in the first place, one of the tasks is to make recommendations to the governor to have that be considered into policy and into practice. And so hearing about an evidence-based practice, even though to the point of the chair, it may have its flaws, is important in moving forward. My greatest disappointment sometimes with hate crime reports and hate crime data is that we sometimes gather these data and then nothing ever comes of it. And sometimes as a person who has reported, I feel like I'm studied rather than being using my testimony as an opportunity to create meaningful change for all Californians to be treated fairly and equally. So I appreciate this report and I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
And thank you. Do we have any other members of the public, Rebecca, on Zoom?
We do, yes. Julie Marzouk, I'm allowing you to speak. You'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you so very much for giving me the opportunity. I wanted to review some of the state's own data on anti-Jewish bias events. According to the California Department of Justice, anti-Jewish incidents rose 53% in 2023, the sharpest jump in any religious category, and then continued to rise in 2024. The commission referenced Cal versus Hate's first annual report from the Possibility Lab, which also showed that 37% of validated religious bias reports were anti-Jewish. By any measure that the state itself generates, anti-Semitism is among the fastest rising forms of hate in California. But this commission has not held a single hearing dedicated to it. The most recent report combines anti-Semitism into a hate in the aftermath of October 7th, framing a civil rights problem as a foreign policy footnote. The legislature has extended the life of this commission in 2025 by 4 years. The Civil Rights Department is now asking the governor for $4 million to sustain this commission in the coming years. With this extended life and larger budget, I would like to ask whether the commission will pursue programs that are responsive to the facts and the data that the state itself creates of who is actually susceptible to hate in California. When the highest rising form of hate gets the least analysis, the advice that this commission sends to the legislature and to the Civil Rights Department is distorted. My ask is straightforward: to develop concrete recommendations to the legislature and the Civil Rights Department on anti-Semitism. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me just add that, again, the latest preliminary data indicates that California, unlike the rest of the United States, actually had an increase last year. And that increase appears to be a record unless the FBI has slightly altered how they enumerate it. So that's why I just put that little caution note up. Thank you for your comments. Do we have any other comments on Zoom, Dr. Goodsell?
No other comments on Zoom.
Thank you. We're keeping you busy today. Adrian, do we have any emailed public comment?
No email public comment.
And Zeleny, do we have any public comment in the room?
No public comment in the room.
All right. So we have a motion. I just want to make sure before we move into that motion, does anyone want to discuss it before Commissioner Salcedo reintroduces it, if you will? Does any staff or commissioner have anything they'd like to chime in before we go to this vote, especially staff, because you're the ones who are under this tight time deadline? Or
See, Commissioner Salcedo has her hand up.
yes, Commissioner Salcedo, floor is yours.
Yeah, I guess I'll let staff say whatever they want, but just for process, I don't think there could be a discussion before a motion is second, and so I'll let people, the staff, to make whatever recommendations before I reintroduce my motion.
All right. On that note, if neither staff nor commissioners, do we have any staff or commissioners? Dr. Watts, was anything?
Just a note that just to remind you, we're on a very tight timeline, so we'll do our best to address the feedback as quickly as possible and get you all a revised draft that incorporates the feedback. in time for you to also review the revisions. So it's a very tight timeline, but we'll do our best. And again, in time for the June 24th meeting so that we could vote on it then. So thank you for your, by the way, just thank you for all your very thoughtful and specific feedback. That's very helpful for us.
Thank you. So without further ado, Commissioner Salcedo, the floor is yours. I believe you want to reintroduce a motion.
Thank you, Chair Levine. So I would like to propose or make a motion that we vote on our June 24th meeting while we wait for the feedback and everything else. That give us a little time for us to review and vote on it then.
Do we have a second?
I have my hand raised to second this motion, Chair Levin.
Thank you. All right. Shall we go to a vote? Alec, would you be kind enough to take the roll on the vote, please?
Sure. So the motion is to delay voting on the report until the June 24th meeting, just to make sure we're all on the same page. So an aye would be in favor of delaying.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Okay,
not
just
to
wanna make
vote
sure.
today, to incorporate the feedback that was provided, and then we have an opportunity to vote on the report on June 24th.
Perfect. Thank you. Sure. Let's go to a vote. Chair Levin.
No.
Okay. Vice Chair Che, Commissioner Cuellar, Commissioner Damsky,
Aye.
Commissioner Roybal, Commissioner Salcedo,
Aye.
Commissioner Suthers,
Aye.
Commissioner Safar.
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay, so of the 5 commissioners present today, 3 ayes, 1 abstain, and 1 no. Sure, yeah, I suppose the motion passes and we could move forward with that. So again, our plan will be to send you all a revised draft next week in time for you to take a look at it. This is the plan for now. If we're unable to incorporate the feedback, then we might have to just delay it further. But and then June 24th, we'll plan to take a vote on it and the revised draft. Chair Levin, you're muted.
Thank you so much. All right, the motion passes. Thank you all. We're now going to go to chair and subcommittee updates, but as we discussed before, the updates for the most part are not going to be offered. Unless, by the way, there's any subcommittee that wants to chime in, I'm happy to do so. But I think we'll skip most of this. But let me just say, as a reminder, as always, if you feel you are a victim of a hate crime or incident, you can contact the California versus Hate resource line to report the incident and be connected with resources. We also want to make sure that you can see these links in the chat. I want to remind everyone that there are free services available for communities through the California Civil Rights Department's Community Conflict Resolution Unit, which we use the acronym CREW. If your community is experiencing heightened fear, conflict, or tensions because of discriminatory practices, hate incidents, or hate crimes, the Community Conflict Resolution Unit may be able to assist. CREW offers a range of conflict resolution services to help communities effectively address hate and discrimination-based community conflict. All CREW services are free, voluntary, and confidential. And just if I may, knowing some of these people, they are incredible folks. CREW services can be requested by completing the request for service form online and emailing the form to ccru@calcivilrights.ca.gov. And we put that contact information up there and in the chat as well. Since there are no subcommittees making presentations, I just want to recognize some things. First, that May was a meaningful month for many communities. We celebrated and honored Asian American, Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, Jewish American Heritage Month, and Older Americans Month. On May 5th, we observed the National Day of Awareness for Missing and Murdered Indigenous People. On May 25th, we observed Memorial Day to honor and remember the service of service members who gave their lives for this country. We also recognize the Muslim holiday of Eid al-Adha, which occurred on May 27th. In June, we celebrate Uplift Pride Month, Immigrant Heritage Month, and Caribbean American Heritage Month. We also recognize Juneteenth on June 19th and World Refugee Day on June 20th. So if there's any commission discussion on that, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll go into public comment. Rebecca, do we have any commissioners with their hands raised?
No commissioners with their hands raised and no public comment on Zoom.
All right, fantastic. Adrian, do we have any email public comment?
No email public comment.
Thank you. Zeleny, do we have any public comment in the room in Sacramento?
No public comment in the room.
Well, I have one comment. Thank you for all you do for us. You're wonderful. Wanted to make sure I put that in there. All right. So without having any public comment on that, I'd like to move to the next topic, the next agenda topic, which is discussion on speakers on anti-Semitism, where I will not discuss speakers on anti-Semitism, but want to make sure that my message to the Jewish community is heard, and I will table this section really with regard to specifically identifying people. But let me talk a little bit about what the data tells us. Anti-Semitism in the United States, despite those that promote it, justify it, or minimize it, is indeed measurable, and those measurements are alarming. Preliminary FBI data I just reviewed show an apparent record 312 anti-Jewish hate crimes. We'll see if that holds when all the numbers come out, perhaps later this month. Nevertheless, it's a record, an apparent record in our state, despite a national decline, but that national decline was to the third highest level ever. The ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, recorded over 9,300 incidents in 2024, the highest that they've recorded in 46 years that it's tracked them, including a 21% rise in physical assaults. Even as overall incidents declined in 2025, they found physical assaults reached a new record high. And we saw deadly weapon attacks, including a shooting at the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, a firebombing of Governor Josh Shapiro's residence in Pennsylvania, a stabbing of a Jewish man in New York, recent attacks in Santa Monica, and a firebomb attack just last June on peaceful marchers calling for the release of hostages. Let me point out that a student group in Colorado chose to recognize this anniversary by glorifying the killer, and that's currently unauthorized student group. But when we hear comments that are violent and that degrade people and refer to these marchers as being in a, quote, Zionist cult, and saying that these attacks were justifiable, is beyond the pale and disgusting, and as disgusting as the kind of drivel that we hear against our Muslim brothers and sisters. The FBI's own data confirmed much of this trend that I just discussed. There was a record of 1,938 at least in 2024, and that was the highest since the Bureau began tracking in 1991. Unlike the ADL, the FBI showed near records for assaults, but not increases. Remember again, American Jews are roughly 2% of the population, but they were the target of nearly 70% of all religious-based hate crimes in the nation. The American Jewish Committee's 2024 survey shows that those numbers feel like in the inside, 77% of American Jews report feeling less safe in this country since October 7th. By the way, we had some discussion about the listing of October 7th. Those 2 months, October and November, were the 2 worst months ever recorded in the state for anti-Jewish hate crimes. So I think that's why some things were contextualized that way. Nevertheless, 56% of Jews since that time have changed their behavior, what they wear, where they go, whether to identify publicly as Jewish out of fear. And 41% of Jewish adults under 30 say they were personally targeted by anti-Semitism in that last year alone. Let me state, a democracy is not healthy while one of its oldest and smallest religious minorities are recalculating their safety every time they step foot out of the house. Anti-Semitism is not a partisan issue, yet nevertheless, we are seeing people running for office in Texas saying that Zionist Jews should be rounded up into camps. And we have a Senate candidate in Maine who has a Totenkopf SS tattoo, which was worn by folks who manned the death camps. But it shouldn't be a partisan issue. This is an American one. Confronting it requires more than statements after an attack. It requires sustained moral clarity from leaders across the political spectrum, serious enforcement of hate crime laws, education that names anti-Semitism plainly, and neighbors who refuse to look away. To our Jewish friends, family, and fellow Californians, we are vigorously working on combating this scourge. You are not alone in it, and you will not be asked to fight it by yourselves. The answer is the same in all cases. Showing up for the grieving, name the hate plainly, hold leaders accountable for the words they choose, and refuse the bargain that asks us to defend one community and their freedom by ignoring another's. The promise of religious liberty is either kept for everyone or it is not really kept at all. To our Muslim neighbors, our Jewish neighbors, and indeed from across the religious spectrum, you are not strangers in this country. You are this country. And we will keep showing up today, tomorrow, and every day after until that truth is reflected in our laws, our leaders, and our streets. Therefore, I will be working with staff and commissioners to invite authors, survivors and victims, and top scholars and policymakers to subsequent meetings to address this threat head on with the best minds allied towards our shared goal. And I will give specific suggestions through channels with the Civil Rights Department staff and our wonderful Community Fora subcommittee. So on that note, if we have any commissioner discussion, Rebecca, please let me know.
We do. Commissioner Zafar, I think, had their hand up first.
Commissioner
Thank
Zafar,
you.
the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Levin, for those comments. I will add, during the Imam statement, I said that the organs of the state were helping to perpetuate a lot of anti-Islamic hate. One comment I want to point out that is sometimes not covered in the popular press, but one I think that the commission and the department, if they are not already, again, I'm new, so caveat, if they're not already, should be looking into, is the troubling rise of anti-Semitic agents, organizations, and kind of purveyors of hatred online, particularly on YouTube, particularly on sites that are not as trafficked as much, discussion boards, forums. This was always the case, but a lot of these individuals and organizations are going mainstream. And so that is a pretty troubling concomitant issue that I'm seeing in our work when it comes to anti-Semitism. And I think it behooves the commission and the department to at least think about it or look into it. So when the hearing, whatever you plan on doing that, Chair Levin, I would want to talk a little bit about that issue in particular.
Thank you so much. Do we have any other hands raised, Rebecca?
Yes, Commissioner Damsky.
Commissioner Damsky, floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Levin, for your comments, and also Commissioner Zafar for your observation. I want to acknowledge that while anti-Semitism is rising, another thing that is rising alongside it that's troubling is desensitization to it. People are tired of hearing about it. People don't think it's as bad as it is. People don't believe it's happening. And so that's another layer on top of this that as a commission, we should be aware of. I'm not sure how to quantify things like that, of that nature, but it's an important piece for this discussion moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from commissioners or staff? All right. We'll now move on to public comment. Rebecca, do we have any public comment on Zoom?
We do. Caroline, I'm going to allow you to speak and you will have 2 minutes.
Hi, thank you. I'm calling today because this commission under Chair Levin is in violation of the Bagley-Keene Act. Under the Bagley-Keene Act, agenda items must be described clearly enough that an ordinary member of the public, like myself, can understand what business may be discussed or acted upon. A vague or misleading title can violate the Act's notice requirement. This discussion on speakers on anti-Semitism was the title for this agendized item number 6. What does that even mean? I have over 6 emails back and forth with the California Civil Rights Department asking about it. Here's the questions I asked: whether any speakers have been selected, whether organizations or individuals have been considered, what criteria is being used, what problem or objective the commission is attempting to address, whether any materials will be presented to the commission. I asked the staff to advise whether there were any staff reports, briefing materials, proposed speaker lists, presentations, other documents, et cetera, They refused to answer it, stating the only thing they could tell me was that Chair Levin asked for it to be agendized. This is violation of the Bagley-Keene Act. This is supposed to be an open meeting. It's supposed to be transparent. Jew hatred has risen dramatically across California and across the country, and here it is on the agenda item for your commission, and we're being silenced. We're not being allowed to speak to what this is, and this is addressing us. It's so confusing to me. We were told that this commission took anti-Semitism seriously. We reported incidents. We submitted our concerns. We participated in meetings. We spent countless hours.
Excuse me, Ms. Lean, you have 30 seconds. Thank you.
What modern Jewish hatred is, and we are not feeling heard. And yet again, now we're being told that this item is something that's going to be done behind the scenes, not forward facing, not where the public can understand who the speakers are. There seems to be an agenda that Chair Levin has for preferred viewpoints, organizations like Bend the Arc, which is a PAC. Are you allowing political action committees to be who listens to hate reporting? Because that really needs investigation, I think, all the way up to Newsom. Something is off here. It's really upsetting to me. I really think what you guys could do could make a lot of difference for not just our community, but communities at large. And something needs to be looked at as to what is going on, why PACs are being used, and why we're not being told when there's an item on an agenda what it actually is and being obfuscated. Thank you.
Thank you. Just for point of clarity, I have not submitted a list, nor do I have an exclusive list. And one of the things that we do with these public meetings, frankly, with all due respect, is solicit members of the public if they have suggestions. So let me once again, if there are folks that would like to make suggestions on who we should have, absolutely. But there is no list right now of anyone that is available, nor has there been anything that's been circulated. And I find your complaint with regard to Bagley-Keene meritless. Thank you. Do we have any other speakers?
The next public comment, the person with their hand raised, Wendy Bakoda. I will give you permission to speak on Zoom and you'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Chair Levin, I believe you misunderstood the past speaker, and I do agree also that there is potential violation of the Bagley-Keene Act. The agenda item as listed was not clear, and so for members of the public, they did not understand what it was about. It says speakers on anti-Semitism. That could have been speakers in the past that have talked about anti-Semitism. Now you're commenting on that. We had no idea that there's some sort of a community forum being planned. Now that we're here and we know that, we would like to be involved. And so thank you for asking that. But I do believe you really need to work on the description for your agendas in the future so that the public know exactly what they're coming to and what they can comment on. That being said, I want to know if these subcommittees meetings are open to the public and how we can provide suggestions. I also do want to note that the Imam's remarks today were thoughtful and compelling. He described the challenges facing the Muslim community. I was struck by how many of those same concerns are being experienced by the Jewish community and how much trauma we have post-October 7th. So I'm glad the Imam understands that, and I fully anticipate this commission will address all hate. As Commissioner Damsky so eloquently pointed out, Jewish Americans suffer every day. I would suggest a survivor from one of the multiple attacks on synagogues come speak so all can understand the trauma felt by Jewish Americans and how they were feeling when targeted and when walking through armed guards, when our children walk through metal detectors to go to school. Finally, if this forum moves forward, I strongly encourage the Commission to partner with major Jewish organizations that have deep expertise in combating anti-Semitism and protecting Jewish communities, including the ADL, the Jewish Federation, Jewish California. I also recommend the Commission invite the American Muslim and Multi-Faith Women's Empowerment Council to participate because they are an organization of Muslim and Jewish women building bridges. Their experience and perspective would be invaluable.
Tata, you have 30 seconds.
For a meaningful, balanced, and effective. I want this commission to help reduce hate, not just respond to it. Support the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. There is a link between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism, as you suggest, Chair Levin. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I welcome, by the way, members of the public, and I will gladly and am usually in consultation with major groups of all kinds, including Jewish organizations. So thank you so much. What I do want to say, though, is the types of people that I think should be considered are the ones that I had mentioned. Therefore, this is indeed a discussion that fits within the Bagley-Keene definition. So scholars, policymakers, victims and survivors, authors are all folks that should be considered. And to members of the public, please feel free to if you have folks that you think could engage in discussion on combating anti-Semitism, please let us know. And I'd be more than happy to look at that as well. Thank you. Do we have any other public comments?
Yes. Sandy Lester, I will be giving you permission to speak on Zoom and you'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you. The point being made today is about trust and neutrality. As Chair Levin stated, I'm holding my leaders accountable. California versus Hate was created to help victims of hate, period. That is why I'm concerned to see Bend the Arc listed as a Jewish resource on the California versus Hate website. Bend the Arc is not a neutral support organization. It's an advocacy group with a distinct ideological perspective and an active legislative agenda. Why is a state program created to help victims of hate directing Jewish victims to an organization that is deeply involved in political advocacy, particularly when that organization has repeatedly opposed legislation and policies supported by much of the Jewish community and designed to strengthen protections against anti-Semitism? And this concern is not limited to the Jewish community. The same standard should apply to every minority community represented here. The moment politics enters the equation, trust begins to erode. The purpose of hate response program is to help victims. The purpose of a political organization like Bend the Arc is to influence public policy and elections. Those are different missions. If California versus Hate wants Californians to trust the system, it should adopt a simple principle. Political organizations belong in politics. Victim support organizations belong in hate response programs. The people reporting hate deserve nothing less. And I hope that Jewish organizations, aside from Bend the Ark, that represent most of the Jewish community are invited to the upcoming forum. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me note, California versus Hate is run by our sister organization, the Civil Rights Department. Do we have any other comments on Zoom?
Yes. SHM membership, I will be giving you permission to speak on Zoom. You'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I also want to talk about Bend the Ark. So on February the 26th, I actually gave comment on that day and talked about Bend the Ark at that time. And I noted that Bend the Ark is the only statewide organization that is considered there to support victims of anti-Semitism, and yet it doesn't acknowledge the Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism. I'm concerned about that, if they should be one of the organizations selected to perhaps be a speaker. This raises a critical question for me. Would Jewish individuals feel like this is a credible organization when that definition isn't recognized? When I commented in February, I was told by the chair that the definition isn't necessarily universally accepted. I think you mentioned that your friend was actually one of the authors and wasn't using it to be an enforcement tool. However, it is the definition that our state has accepted. I actually felt rather dismissed, and I just want to say that public testimony is valuable and necessary. It ensures that lived experiences, although painful and complex, are heard by decision makers and cannot be dismissed. As we all know, hate in California is not abstract. It appears in schools, places of worship, and public spaces through harassment, vandalism, exclusion, and sometimes violence.
Oh, excuse me, you just have 30 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you. So I just want to emphasize the emotional toll of hate, but also giving public comment to have it be dismissed can promote anxiety, exhaustion, and even isolation. It leaves us asking questions that nobody should have to ask. Is it safe to be visible, to speak, and will anyone stand with me? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I do stand with you, but standing with you doesn't mean that I have to accept every position that you may take. The person I was referring to was Ken Stern, who is in charge of the Bard Center for the Study of Hate. And he was an author of the IHRA definition. And the IHRA definition has numerous instances where it could be employed. And I think that's something that's worthy of discussion. But it goes from something that's an enforcement level to something for a discourse level. And that's something that I think is a healthy thing that we should discuss, both within the Jewish community, of which I am a member, as well as the national and state community as well. And indeed, many places do accept that definition. San Diego just voted to, for example. But having a different position on something does not mean that I don't take this matter seriously, nor does it mean that I ignore your heartfelt and sincere statements, which do affect, I think, everyone here who's listening to it. And if you in some way felt dismissed, that is certainly not my intent, although what I can say is the nature of how we have public comment, we do limit it by time. Also, I invite folks to contact Deputy Director Watts and with contact information, and I will try to get back to all of you who spoke today. If you could just send that information to Dr. Watts.
And I'm just gonna jump in here to remind you, Chair Levin, we are over time, and we have a couple more public comments in the queue. So I think we need to wrap it up if we can, because we're over the meeting time.
Okay, I did not know that we had a limit on meeting time. So thank you for telling me. But we had a packed agenda. So if do we have any more public comments?
We do, yes. Julie Marzouk, I'm going to give you permission to speak on Zoom. You'll have 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you very much. My comment is very brief, but only to mention that I think that there is an intention to obfuscate responsibility by claiming a separation between California versus hate and the commission. The commission was just extended by 4 years, and among the ways in which the commission's life was extended and budget is being requested was to tout the work of California versus hate. California versus hate is run by the Civil Rights Department and actually does not have a line item budget in the new budget, is only being enrolled to continue under the Civil Rights Department. So if it is the job, as the legislation states, for this commission to advise agencies, including the Civil Rights Department, and that California versus hate runs under the Civil Rights Department, then I don't think it is, I think it is ingenuous to say that these two entities are separate. They are discussed in the legislature and funding together. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think you meant disingenuous, but let me say, the commission has not had any part with respect to who may be selected with regard to California versus hate. In other words, we certainly, I have not come up with finalized lists of who shall be on that listing or not. But thank you. Do we have any other public comment?
I noticed another public commenter with their hand up. They have already submitted a public comment during this period. And so I wanted to remind folks that public comment can also be submitted via email as well. And we can put this in the chat as well, but csh@calcivilrights.ca.gov.
Thank you so much. Do we have any more public comment on Zoom, Rebecca?
No additional public comment on Zoom.
Adrian, do we have any emailed public comment?
No email public comment.
Thank you. Zelene, do we have any public comment in the room?
No public comment in the room.
All right. On that note, we will move forward to approval of the minutes, which is agenda item number 7. What I'd like to do, hold on, do we, I think we have to go to commission discussion on that. So do we have any commission discussion on the minutes from our April 22nd, 2026 meeting?
Commissioner Adamski has her hand raised.
Floor is yours, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair. I'll keep this brief. I appreciated these minutes because they reminded me of the important conversation we had about compassion and deep listening as tools for addressing hate in communities that are targeted by hate. If there are no other further comments, I will move to approve these minutes.
Okay, I just have one comment, and that is, could we perhaps restate, unless there's commissioners with their hands raised, could we restate to approve the minutes with possible correction of the number of participants? We just have to check that out, make sure it's consistent. So without further ado, would you like to reintroduce your motion, Commissioner Adamski?
I can amend the agenda that way. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, amend my motion to include those changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a second? It looks like Commissioner Suthers.
I second. Sorry, I have a university band behind me and I can't go off speaker.
Okay. I'm old enough to remember Tusk, but anyway, we're going to go to a vote now. Alec, would you be kind enough to conduct the vote?
Sure. Just to clarify, the motion is to approve the minutes with a change, but I just want to be explicit about the change. So could we just repeat that change? I think it was you, Chair Levin, that made the recommendation.
Yes, just to make sure that our number of participants is accurate.
Okay, great. So the team will go into the Zoom record and check the number of participants and make sure that that's accurate. If not, we will correct it. So that's the motion, is to approve the minutes pending double checking the attendees and number of attendees and correcting it if needed. Okay.
Thank you.
Just making sure. Okay, Chair Levin.
Aye.
Fantastic. Commissioner or Vice Chair Che, Commissioner Cuellar, Commissioner Damsky,
Aye.
Commissioner Roybal, Commissioner Salcedo, Commissioner Southers,
Aye.
Commissioner Zafar.
Aye.
Okay, the 4 ayes, the motion passes.
All right, fantastic. We're now going to move to agenda item number 9, since agenda item number 8 has been deleted, which was coordinating responses and analysis regarding extremist attacks in California. That is deleted. We are going now to agenda item number 9, discussion of civil rights and civil liberties. And because of limited time, the only thing that I want to say on this is I am extraordinarily concerned with the direction of the Federal Justice Department and Todd Blanche, who is now the designee. And it would be my hope that with respect to civil rights, that there will be a vigorous discussion of what he plans to do with respect to hate crime during his confirmation hearings. I will then leave that to commission discussion. I've truncated our civil rights and civil liberties discussions for today due to time. But do we have any commissioners that have their hand raised in the room? Rebecca?
No commissioners with their hand raised and no public comment on Zoom.
Great. Adrian, do we have any emailed public comment?
No email public comment.
Zeleny, do we have any public comment in the room?
No public comment in the room.
All right. We will now proceed to item number 10, commission member announcements. Rebecca, commission discussion. Do we have any commissioners with their hands raised?
Yes, Commissioner Damsky.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to say this briefly. I've written a statement here, but there's something going on in my local community here in San Diego where a local union member was recently detained by ICE and put in detention when she showed up for her immigration hearing. She is born in a country in Asia, has been in this country since she was a young child, and is now being threatened with deportation on a very short timeline. One of the things I would like this commission to look into is, we talk about hate acts that are committed by individuals or groups, but we have not addressed what I am calling institutionalized hate as federal policy. And I think this is what this is. She is a brown-skinned woman. These people who look like her are the people that ICE are targeting. They are the people that our president is wanting to toss out of this country in any way he can find to do that. And the horrific injustice that these individuals are experiencing is just heartbreaking. It costs her $50 to make every single phone call. And that means to her lawyer, to her family, to whatever. Her union community has been raising funds to help her make these phone calls. Meanwhile, ICE told her not to try to work with lawyers to avoid detention because there's nothing they can do. And they are threatening to move her to another state detention center so that her lawyers can't find her and she will have to begin the legal process anew in another state. This is unconscionable. And I can think of calling this nothing other than institutionalized hate as federal policy. And I would love to see our commission take this up as an issue in future discussions, and particularly its impact on Californians. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other commissioner comments?
No other comments that I see, and no public comment on Zoom.
Okay. Adrian, do we have any emailed public comment?
No email public comment.
Zeleny, do we have any public comment in the room?
No public comment in the room.
All right. I believe that was agenda item number 10 that we just completed. Is that not correct? All righty. If we could move on to agenda item number 11, future agenda items. And I'm going to, in the interest of time, just go straight to commission discussion and not make any comments right now. All right. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment on Zoom.
All righty. Thank you, Dr. Goodsell. Adrian, do we have any emailed public comment?
No email public comment.
Zeleny, do we have any public comment in the room in Sacramento?
No public comment in the room.
All right. We'll go to our next to last agenda item, and that is item number 12, agenda item number 12, public comment on items not on the agenda. So is there any commission discussion? All right. Is there any public comment?
Yes. Sandy Lester, I'm giving you permission to speak on Zoom. You'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. At the February 25th meeting of this commission, several members of the public spoke about anti-Semitism, anti-Israel activism, the IRA definition of anti-Semitism, and concerns about Ben the Ark and its impact on civil rights and safety of Jewish Californians. This was done again today. And again today, after each speaker, the chair interjected his own commentary to our testimony. Rather than simply receiving public comment, he challenged the concerns being raised. For those of us who have come forward, it creates the impression that our concerns and perspectives are not welcome, but instead we are being scrutinized, discounted, and dismissed. This concern is especially significant because this commission is charged with protecting the civil rights of all Californians. No community should feel that its experience with discrimination, harassment, or hatred are treated as less credible, less important, or less deserving of concern because others disagree with its perspective. As Commissioner Salcedo said earlier in this meeting, this is a hate that binds us all. The civil rights and personal safety of every Californian deserves equal respect and protection. Yet our viewpoints were met with skepticism and qualification rather than empathy and understanding. The last place any Californian should experience that perception is before a commission whose mission is to safeguard our civil rights. It takes courage to stand before a public body and speak about hatred, discrimination, and fear, which you can hear in my voice. People who come here should be believing they were heard. Feeling belittled, rebutted, and unwelcome should not be part of the process. Thank you.
Thank you. And as I said to all our speakers, please give your contact information to Dr. Watts, and I will try to get back to every single one of you. And I apologize if that is the way you perceived my statements. Do we have any other comment?
Yes, we do.
Yes. Please.
Wendy Bokada, I'm going to allow you to talk on Zoom. You'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I just want to respond. I have something new to say, but respond quickly. A good response, Chair Levin, to those of us who are questioning Ben the Ark and have been since February would not be to hide behind the Civil Rights Office, but to in fact take accountability and say that these comments are going to be carried up the chain and that the public comments that you hear tonight will be given to that office and you will defend us and you will in fact get back and have that removed, or at least explain why. So I believe you to be the liaison, and you cannot just hide behind it. So that would be my suggestion for comments and how to respond. But I want to talk about something that happened earlier this year. Millions of Californians received an official voter guide from the state of California. Inside was a candidate statement from Don Grudman, a real candidate that included anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, blaming Israel and Jews for the September 11th attacks, and other long discredited anti-Semitic tropes. The statement was printed and mailed to millions of voters. Many Jewish Californians were shocked, not because he was fringe or hateful. Every community has extremists. What shocked us was the response. We were told nothing could be done. We were told their hands were tied. We were told that free speech required the state to publish and distribute this material. But California versus hate is not called California versus crime. It is not called California versus illegal conduct. It is California versus hate. No one was asking to arrest Don Grudman. People were asking California leaders, and you are a leader here, to say clearly and unequivocally, this is anti-Semitism. It is wrong. We reject it. Instead, Jewish Californians received legal explanations, as we do sometimes here by you, Chair Levin. What we did not receive was the moral clarity that California versus hate claims to promote. That is why many Jews feel frustrated. That is why we will keep showing up and express our frustration. When anti-Semitism occurs, we are met with discussions about process. When other forms of hate occur, we are told why that hate is wrong. Those should not be different conversations. California hate versus hate should be the first voice willing to call out anti-Semitism, especially when it appears in an official state publication, or if an organization that is on its website is anti-Jewish. Because if a program dedicated to fighting hate cannot clearly speak when millions of Californians receive anti-Semitic conspiracy theories in their mailboxes, then many of us are left wondering, what exactly is Cal versus hate willing to stand against? I would hope to hear the commission take a stand against such hate. The voter guide failure isn't a bureaucratic mistake. It was a choice. Weber actively distributed anti-Semitic conspiracy theories to every Californian using taxpayer funds, then hid behind the First Amendment when the law didn't require her to. There should be consequence to sharing hateful content for free to the entire state of California. Legislation was just introduced, AB 1843. I encourage you to support it. It would prevent this from happening again. This could happen against any community, and it must not. So I hope all communities join with the Jewish community in supporting the passage of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And just a point, I believe it is not AB 1843, but AB 1853, and it is authored by Assembly members Pelerin and Berman. So,
and I just want to, I just want to also just take a moment to clarify for items that aren't on the agenda. I realize that this relates to the substantive point you were making. But for items that were not on the agenda, we can't engage in a substantive discussion other than to add them to a future agenda for this last portion of the agenda. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And just let me then just say, I find that mailing to be reprehensible and disgusting, and I look forward to us and others examining this issue. I just want to make sure, just for point of clarification, that to the best of my recollection, it was AB 1853 that is related to that comment. Thank you so much, Julia. You are just such a resource for all of us. Thank you again. Do we have any more public comment on Zoom?
We do, yes. There's one more public comment on Zoom. Carol Lean, I'm going to give you permission to speak on Zoom. You'll have 2 minutes.
Hi, yes, we do need to have a conversation about the Bagley-Keene Act, as well as public comments and how this process is supposed to work. This is now my second time observing this meeting, and it just feels very uncomfortable to be a public speaker. You get talked back to, you get corrected, as the last speaker was just corrected, erroneously, I might add. It is not the place of the chair to be telling people what they said. He did it now multiple times in the past item number 6, corrected people, corrected me, played judge and juror over the Bagley-Keene Act, said that there was no merit to what I said. This is not supposed to be a weigh-in. It's supposed to be public comment and free speech. And I believe if the chair does not have a clear understanding of how open meetings work in the state of California that the chair should be removed and somebody else should be nominated in his stead. Similarly, I wanted to bring up the issue that we keep talking about, which is the concept of having PACs, political action committees, that are holding positions in California versus hate. This is a real issue. There should be an investigation to audit how many of the organizations listed give political funds to people who are running for elections or give political funds to anything that's being legislated on. How can the public, the California public, trust to report hate to California versus hate if they're going to potentially use that information and give it to a political entity? There should be a very clear line here for everybody. Politics should not be mixed into this, and it is being mixed into it, and it gives me great concern that something is amiss here. We should be able to report hate, and that hate should be qualified and quantified, and we should be able to hear the report like we did today, knowing full well that we did so in a safe and secure environment. That is not the case with Bend the Arc. There's other ones up there. I'm understood the Hindu community also feels similar, that they also have issues with who has been put as their representation at the California versus hate level. You need an audit, and anybody who gives political funds needs to be removed from being allowed on there, because this is not a safe place as it is right now, nor is it a safe place to give public comments where you get constantly told what you meant or you didn't mean, or what the chair interprets, that you're trying to say. So please work on what this commission represents and how you function, because this doesn't feel like a safe place. It feels aggressive and not proper to what you guys were told to do as a commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comments on Zoom?
No other public comment on Zoom.
All right. Adrian, do we have any emailed public comment?
We have one email public comment. I will summarize it. This is coming from Samir Kalra of the Hindu American Foundation. Their email highlights the anti-Hindu incidents rising in California, accounting for a staggering 23% of all religious bias cases. They quote that houses of worship have faced systematic pattern of intimidation, desecration, and infrastructure sabotage, often at the hands of others from the broader South Asian community, end quote. They conclude their email by highlighting certain situations that have happened, and they urge the commission, the Civil Rights Department, to address this crisis and safety of Hindu Californians. There are no other additional email public comments.
All right, thank you. So without further ado, we'll go to item number, I believe, 13 on the agenda, adjournment of the meeting. This meeting is hereby adjourned at 12:31 p.m. Pacific time.